Chapter 726. Li Changsheng, you and I are irreconcilable enemies. The golden-armored patriarch gritted his teeth and spat out those words. The water-repellent golden-eyed beast clan had a hard time reproducing. His only son, the golden-armored heavenly demon, had died at the hands of Li Changsheng. There were still a few collateral descendants who could inherit the bloodline of the golden-eyed beast clan, but now Li Changsheng had eliminated them all. More than 100 of his clansmen had been killed by Li Changsheng. He did not hesitate to fight to the death with him. Li, you're courting death. The golden-armored patriarch was furious. With a roar, the wind and clouds changed, and a black axe appeared in his hand. The Tianyuan axe was the legendary divine artifact of the water-repellent golden-eyed beast clan. Although it could not compare to the white flood dragon clan's ardent dragon spear, the axe in the hands of the golden-armored patriarch had once shocked the entire sea region. At this moment, the axe carried a heavy aura. It slowly rose in the hands of the golden-armored patriarch. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura began to spread from the golden-armored patriarch. Having lived for hundreds of years, the golden-armored patriarch had shocked the sea region. It had been a long time since he really fought. Although he had chased down the people of the Verdant sect a few days ago and destroyed the mountain-protecting array of each sect, the golden-armored patriarch was just playing around. Now, he was really serious. The Tianyuan axe appeared, stirring up the boundless wind and clouds, and slashed down with terrifying power. Boom! The huge power of the axe seemed to be splitting the sky and earth. It was not fast, but every time the axe pressed down, the power was countless times stronger. Before it really landed, the members of the various sects below, from the sect masters to the ordinary disciples, all felt their souls trembling. In the distance, countless experts were watching from afar. The chi of heaven and earth here was so turbulent that almost all the experts in the cultivation world were alarmed. In the Pre-Qin dynasty, the human race reigned supreme, and most of the demons were just their mounts. I didn't expect such a powerful expert to appear in the demon race now. I'm afraid no one can stop him. Can Li Changsheng really do it? Countless people muttered to themselves. He was shocked by such a threat. At this moment, Li Changsheng lifted the ardent dragon spear, and a six-clawed golden dragon soared into the sky. The golden light was dazzling, and it was filled with a vast aura. It met the heavenly essence axe head on. From afar, one could see two powerful energies, one black and one gold, colliding with each other. Rumble. Powerful energy spread out in all directions. Even the clouds were shattered. The entire sky seemed to have turned into a huge lake. Boundless ripples undulated unceasingly. However, this seemingly beautiful ripple contained a terrifying energy. In all directions, whether it was ancient trees or buildings, whether it was boulders or mountain peaks, everything that was swept by this energy was turned into dust. One of the spectators was hit because he was too close, and his blood sprayed into the air. This time, the spectators who had maintained a sufficient distance from the battle quickly distanced themselves. It was too terrifying. Even the aftershocks of the battle were not something they could withstand. After the first strike, the heavenly essence axe was once again swung back. On the other hand, Li Changsheng stood in place without moving an inch. It was obvious that Li Changsheng had the upper hand. Again, the golden armor ancestor's expression did not change because his attack had been blocked. The heavenly essence axe suddenly expanded to 100 feet in size and slashed down directly. Bang, 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 bang. The void shattered and a series of sonic booms sounded. It was as if the entire sky was shaking. It was as if a mountain was pressing down, or as if a planet was falling from the sky, passing through the atmosphere and smashing down directly. What a terrifying power! This time, no one could remain calm. This kind of power was simply destructive. Can Li Changsheng still withstand it? Even the people of the Green Sect who trusted Li Changsheng could not help but feel nervous at this moment. This kind of power was too shocking. It had already touched the earth immortal realm. The ancestor of the water-repellent golden-eyed beasts had been in seclusion for many years and finally achieve something. Good one. Li Changxing's eyes were also filled with excitement. This kind of attack was worthy of his full strength. Ardent Dragon Spear, break for me! A loud roar was heard. The Ardent Dragon Spear emitted a dazzling golden light. It opened up a path in the void with a mighty momentum. This spear strike could be said to be Li Changxing's full strength. One could see the image of a flood dragon roaring continuously, and there was even a god roaring furiously. The sound of blood gushing like a great river came from his body, and the chi and blood chi illuminated his back with a blood-red glow, as if he had transformed into an oven, burning fiercely, and the heat was oppressive. This was Li Changxing's strongest attack that gathered the strength of his physical body and the true essence all over his body. Bang! The moment the huge, heavenly essence axe collided with the long spear, it was directly smashed and sent flying backward. One could see that a corner of the sharp axe had fallen off. The golden armor ancestor's body retreated more than 100 feet. He held the heavenly essence axe tightly, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, there was finally a look of horror in his eyes. He did not expect that his attack would be broken by Li Changxing. Take another one of my spear. Li Changxing's hair fluttered in the wind, and his body was burning with fighting spirit. He took a step forward, and his body drew a long shadow in the sky. He soared into the sky and revealed his sharpness. Bang, 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 bang. The ardent dragon spear and the heavenly essence axe kept colliding. Many people could not bear the terrifying sound waves and were bleeding from their 7 orifices. There is actually such a powerful person in this world. It's too terrifying. The golden armor ancestor is almost comparable to an earth immortal, and Li Changxing is strong enough to kill immortals. Countless people sighed in their hearts. There is actually such a powerful person like Li Changxing in this world. Even the golden armor ancestor is completely suppressed. If the golden armor ancestor dies in the hands of Li Changxing, who in this world can stop Li Changxing? I, the unique and righteous, I, the unique and righteous. Countless people were overwhelmed with emotions. Since the Age of Doom, human cultivators had been declining. It was not until Li Changxing's rise that people saw the glory of this era. It seems that no matter what era it is, there will be the birth of a supreme expert. Just as everyone's emotions were fluctuating, boom, Li Changxing smashed down with his spear again. This spear directly blasted down. Wherever it passed, the endless primordial chi was directly separated, turning into a vacuum. The heavenly essence axe was smashed by the spear, and cracks appeared on the axe body. The legendary divine weapon of the water-repellent golden-eyed beast is indeed inferior to the ardent dragon spear of the white flood dragon clan. Li Changxing stood in the void and said with contempt in his eyes. The golden armor ancestor's face was extremely ugly. Li Changxing's words were not only insulting him, but also looking down on the entire water-repellent golden-eyed beast clan. How could he not be angry? But so what if he was angry? Li Changxing was too powerful, so powerful that he felt powerless. Li, you forced me to do this. The golden armor ancestor put away the heavenly essence axe, then raised his head. The aura on his body changed, and he turned into a huge wild beast. The most powerful part of the monster beast clan was their original body, in human form. They could only use 1/10 of their strength. Li Changxing, are you ready to die now? A majestic voice resounded through the clouds. At this moment, the golden armor ancestor was finally forced to use his trump card by Li Changxing. Chapter 727. Bang, 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 bang. A gigantic golden beast that was several stories tall appeared between heaven and earth. Its heartbeat was like the beating of a drum. Its pair of gigantic eyes flickered with golden light. Its sharp fangs were like sharp swords, causing people to feel a chill down their spines. Roar! His roar formed a whistling wind. At this moment, the golden armor patriarch was undoubtedly terrifying. You're too naive if you think you can fight against me after transforming into a demon. Li Changxing raised the ardent dragon spear and thrust it out. At this moment, he seemed extremely small in front of the giant golden beast. However, the moment the ardent dragon spear was thrust out, the vitality between heaven and earth shook violently, and a golden light pierced through heaven and earth. Li Changsheng and the ardent dragon spear in his hand were completely connected by blood after comprehending the cultivation technique of the White Flood Dragon clan in the cave. This attack was also the strongest attack that he had combined with the ardent dragon spear. One could see that the golden light was unstoppable. It carried an indomitable aura that wanted to pierce through everything in front of him. The moment the giant golden beast was hit by the ardent dragon spear, its huge body directly brushed against the ground and moved hundreds of meters away. Countless ancient trees and rocks in its path were all smashed into pieces. This is too terrifying. Countless people widened their eyes. The moment the golden armor patriarch transformed into his demonic form, everyone felt insignificant and invincible. However, at this moment, he was sent flying by Li Changsheng's spear. Isn't Li Changsheng too powerful? Not only can he be considered the best in the cultivation world, but he can also be considered invincible on the entire earth, right? Everyone's mind was in turmoil. However, the golden armor patriarch, who was sent flying, stood up again. He opened his bloody mouth and breathed in and out vitality. One could see the endless spiritual energy of heaven and earth pouring into his body like a vortex. The decadence that he felt when he was sent flying by Li Changsheng was swept away in an instant and was replaced by a terrifying aura. Li Changsheng, you're too arrogant. Sending me flying with your spear just now was your best chance to kill me. Unfortunately, you missed it. Now, let me end you completely. After swallowing the endless heaven earth yuan qi into its stomach, the golden beast seemed to have been reborn. In the midst of a powerful battle, he made a breakthrough in the line between life and death. Half-step Earth Immortal. At this moment, the golden-armored beast seemed to have some kind of connection with the heavens and earth. His every move could affect the surrounding weather. In particular, the ocean-like yuan qi of heaven and earth continuously entered his body, repairing his injuries. The number of half-step Earth Immortals had almost dried up over the past few hundred years. Earth Immortals had long disappeared from the world. The gold-armored patriarch had actually stepped into the threshold of the Earth's celestial stage. Didn't this mean that after today, he would very likely become the only living Earth celestial in the world? The Earth's celestial stage is a legendary stage. Even if it's just half a step into it, it's still extremely terrifying. Li Changsheng is in danger. Countless people mumbled to themselves as their minds wavered. They looked at Li Changsheng with pity in their eyes. Indeed, with Li Changsheng's talent, he would definitely be able to step into the Earth's celestial stage if given more time. However, it was obviously impossible now. No matter how many trump cards Li Changsheng had, could he fight against a half-step Earth celestial stage expert? Boom! With the surging of the heaven-earth yuan qi, the gold-armored patriarch finally began to attack. His huge body leaped into the air, leaving 2 cracks in the ground and covering half the sky. He pounced on Li Changsheng. Endless heaven, earth, yuan, qi surged out with his pounce. It was like a huge wave on the sea, sweeping toward Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng is doomed. Even Ding Qingyang, Ding Qingxue, Yin Shuangying, Song Zhen, and the others were in despair. However, in the face of the gold-armored patriarch, who had reached his peak, Li Changsheng's face was surprisingly calm. The celestial demon shadow behind him kept roaring. The golden six-clawed golden dragon danced around him. His qi and blood kept burning. Finally, the 3 celestial demons merged into one and turned into a golden god. The ardent dragon spear roared in the sky. Li Changsheng stabbed out with his spear. It was like a fast boat breaking the waves. It hit the giant golden beast directly. Boom! He blocked the giant golden beast with his spear. However, it was obvious that Li Changsheng's body moved back several feet. Compared with his initial motionless state, this was obviously a bad sign. The gold-armored patriarch, who had been at a disadvantage, was finally evenly matched with Li Changsheng. Again, the gold-armored patriarch pounced on Li Changsheng again. Wherever the mighty power passed by, the void would crumble continuously. Good timing. Li Changsheng waved the ardent dragon spear and stood upside down in the sky. In an instant, he stabbed the giant golden beast thousands of times. Once again, he forced the giant golden beast to retreat to its original position. Gold-armored patriarch, do you really think you can defeat me as a half-step Earth Celestial? At this moment, Li Changxing chose to withdraw the ardent dragon spear. At the same time, all the strange phenomena behind him disappeared. He raised his fist and took a step forward, rushing toward the giant golden beast. He chose to fight the giant golden beast in close combat. Everyone was shocked. As everyone knew, the human body was much weaker than the demonic beast body. The strength of human beings was that they were good at controlling all kinds of weapons and making use of the power of mountains and earth veins to fight their enemies. Now, Li Changxing's action was tantamount to giving up his advantage. He was using his weakness to fight the enemy's strength. Wasn't he courting death? The gold-armored patriarch's eyes were full of mockery. Li Changsheng, are you at your wit's end? How dare you compete with me in terms of physical strength? Then I'll send you on your way. The giant golden beast's scales stood erect. Then it stomped on the ground and pounced toward Li Changsheng. That huge beast paw slammed directly towards Li Changsheng's chest. Wherever the powerful force passed, there was a continuous rumble. Since Li Changsheng had chosen to fight with his physical strength, he naturally wouldn't throw away his life. No matter how many magic treasures he had and how many cultivation skills he had, what could really help him was the 9 revolutions of celestial demons. The indestructible celestial demon body, which had been tempered by the 9 revolutions of celestial demons, was Li Changxing's greatest reliance. Therefore, he chose to fight the gold-armored patriarch with his physical strength. In the eyes of many people, Li Changsheng was no different from throwing away his life. However, only Li Changxing knew that this was his most powerful trump card. Originally, Li Changxing didn't need to use his trump card to deal with the gold-armored patriarch. However, he didn't expect the gold-armored patriarch to break through to the half-step Earth celestial stage during the battle. Therefore, Li Changsheng had to use his most powerful means. Rumble. The powerful force of qi and blood accompanied Li Changxing's fist. The mighty force directly collided with the gold-armored patriarch's demonic paw. Crack, crack, crack. The collision of forces caused the entire void to shatter. The raging wind from the extraterritorial space flowed backward and was driven by Li Changxing's fist, forming a tornado spectacle. Bang, bang, bang. The powerful force slapped the gold-armored patriarch's giant paw away and then slammed into the giant beast's lower abdomen. With just one punch, the giant golden beast fell heavily to the ground, causing smoke and dust to rise. The giant golden beast struggled to climb out of the pit. Just as it was about to counterattack, it saw Li Changsheng transform into a giant celestial demon. His scarlet eyes reflected a cold and bloodthirsty light. Gold-armored patriarch, do you think you're the only one with a demonic body? I wonder if you dare to compete with my demonic body? Chapter 728. The golden armor ancestor felt a great sense of danger. In the sky, the fiend god Li Changsheng had transformed and had a terrifying aura that made his heart tremble. The fiend god body. Li Changsheng stretched his body. This was the first time he had transformed into the fiend god body. When he fought against the 5 monster kings, he only had the appearance of a fiend god. But now, he had inherited the power of a fiend god. Golden armor ancestor, let me see how powerful your monster body is. Li Changsheng raised his huge fiend god claw and clawed at the golden armor ancestor. This was a fiend god that was hundreds of feet tall. Looking up from below, one couldn't even see his head. The fiend god claw was several stories high. When it slammed down, even the golden armor ancestor, who had a strong physique, was like an ant. I don't believe a human can have the power of a fiend god. The golden armor ancestor opened his bloody mouth and pounced at the fiend god claw. At this moment, it was like two ordinary beasts fighting. But because they were too big, they had a terrible destructive power to the mountains and rivers under their feet. The golden armor ancestor was going all out. The scales on his body were shining brightly. Bang! There was a loud sound. The fiend god claw pressed down mercilessly. In the next second, the huge golden beast that the golden armor ancestor had transformed into was smashed to the ground. At this moment, several of the golden beast's teeth were broken, and its body was covered in bright red blood. Li Changsheng, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. The golden armor ancestor's voice was mournful. Powerful primordial qi gathered in his body, and a terrible power was gradually released. Li Changsheng, I'm a half-step earth immortal. I didn't expect to be no match for you. In that case, let's die together. With that, he turned back into his human form. The heavenly essence axe in his hand shone brightly. Then, the golden armor patriarch turned into a golden light and merged with the axe, becoming one with it. No matter what kind of Dharma treasure it was, it would be connected to the owner's heart. It was a secret technique that allowed the owner to become one with a magic treasure. It was the most mysterious tool controlling technique. The Sky Origin Divine Axe was the divine weapon of the water-repelling golden-eyed beasts. It had been refined by the golden-armored ancestor for many years, and it was only now that it truly displayed its power. However, the golden armor old ancestor had paid the price with his life. Rumble, the Heaven Origin Divine Axe, continued to grow. In the blink of an eye, it had grown to the size of 1,000 feet, and it was still growing. The power emanating from the axe had already caused the mountains and rivers beneath their feet to crumble. The earth sank. The spectators around them, including those from Mount Shu and the Verdant sect, quickly retreated. The area within a radius of 100 miles had turned into chaotic vital energy. The wind was raging, the void was trembling, and the sun and moon were dimmed. This is too terrifying. This is going to create a new world. Old Ancestor Golden Armor has fused with his axe. His current combat strength is probably not inferior to an earthly immortal expert. Is this the power of an Earth celestial stage powerhouse? Countless people sighed. This kind of power shouldn't have appeared in this world. Was Li Changsheng stronger, or was the golden armored ancestor more powerful? Many people were looking at the center of the battlefield. Unfortunately, there were chaotic airflows everywhere at the moment. The tornadoes that reached the sky couldn't be seen clearly at all. Under such power, the spectators didn't dare to get close at all. Even if they were swept by the weakest power, it would be enough to seriously injure a Vajrarel powerhouse. When the axe grew to nearly 1,000 feet, it finally chopped down on Li Changsheng's head. At this moment, a huge crack appeared in the void. One could see the raging storm inside. Wills descended from the crack. When they came into contact with the sharp power of the axe, they were directly crushed into pieces. How dare you, barbarian, hurt my divine soul? It seems to be an Earth celestial. How could there be an Earth celestial stage powerhouse in such a small space? Countless thoughts came from the crack. In the next second, they were quickly obliterated by the sharp edge of the axe. Space was the most fundamental law that constituted this world. When the space barrier was broken, countless powerhouses in this void noticed the existence of this world. Unfortunately, the power of the Tianyuan axe was at its strongest at this moment. Those thoughts had already become weak after passing through the spatial storm. How could they withstand the sharp edge of the axe? Good timing. Golden armored ancestor, I'll kill you today as a sacrifice to my ardent dragon spear. In the future, I'll take credit for your contribution when I conquer all the worlds. Although Li Changsheng had already known about the existence of the extraterrestrial space from various ancient books, it was only at this moment that he saw a corner of the extraterrestrial space. The dozens of wills that descended just now were extremely powerful. They should be powerhouses above the Earth celestial stage. This allowed him to see a broader sky. At this moment, the Tianyuan axe finally chopped down. This axe was enough to divide yin and yang and split heaven and earth. Good timing. Li Changsheng held the ardent dragon spear in his hand and met it directly. Under the state of the god-fiend body, the power of the ardent dragon spear increased by dozens of times. When the spear was used, all the power gathered at the tip of the spear. It penetrated the turbulent primordial qi and directly met the blade of the Tianyuan axe. At this moment, the golden ardent dragon spear and the black Tianyuan axe finally collided. Bang, 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 bang. Like dozens of atomic bombs exploding at the same time, powerful energy swept across heaven and earth. The cracks in the space that had already been split open expanded again. Several figures could even be faintly seen standing outside the cracks, observing the vibrations inside. Open for me. Li Changsheng suddenly activated his god-fiend body. After blocking the attack of the Tianyuan axe, the ardent dragon spear stabbed out. The rotating golden light was like a river that had broken through a dam, surging down violently. At that moment, the cracks that had already appeared on the Tianyuan axe split directly from the middle. Then, a golden giant beast fell out of the giant axe. Golden-armored ancestor's body fell from the sky, his eyes full of sorrow. I actually lost. Li Changsheng, you are the strongest powerhouse in the world. At this moment, Li Changsheng, who had won, did not have much joy on his face. Instead, he sighed. If your Tianyuan axe had not been damaged, perhaps you could have died together with me. What a pity. Li Changsheng did not know whether he felt pity for golden-armored ancestor or for losing such an opponent. After all, in this world, with Li Changsheng's current cultivation, it was too difficult to find another opponent. Interesting, such a powerhouse has appeared in this small world. That attack, just now, was not inferior to an earthly immortal. I don't know where this world is. Should we descend and explore? That young man is very suitable for me. It will be good to sign a master-servant contract and be my battle servant. Several powerful thoughts were constantly talking and wanted to descend directly through the cracks in the space. Where did this reckless thing come from? You want to take me as your servant? Li Changsheng was aware of the information that these thoughts were talking about. He suddenly flew into a rage and raised the ardent dragon spear. Under the god-fiend, indestructible body, the ardent dragon spear burst out a dazzling golden light and rushed into the cracks. The dozens of thoughts were instantly shattered. The figure that was the first to approach was directly smashed back by the spear and was submerged in the endless cracks. How dare you? How dare you hurt me? An angry voice came from the void. At this moment, under the operation of the rules of heaven and earth, the cracks slowly closed and finally disappeared completely isolating the angry voice from the void. Chapter 729. Gold-armored old ancestor, this is your fate to meet me. Li Changsheng said coldly. Golden armor old ancestor closed his eyes. He knew that Li Changsheng would not let him live. Sure enough, as soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, the scorching dragon spear in his hand fell from the sky and pierced golden armor old ancestor's body. Rays of golden light could be seen fusing into the scorching dragon spear. In the end, golden armor old ancestor's body was completely turned into ashes. On the scorching dragon spear, the shadow of a flood dragon gradually turned into 7 claws. Although it was not fully condensed, it was obviously infinitely close. I wonder what changes will happen when the scorching dragon spear evolves to the highest level. Li Changsheng was looking forward to it. In the distance, countless spectators were looking at the center of the battlefield. At this point in the battle, no one could tell who would be the final winner. Finally, when the surging yuan qi of heaven and earth gradually dispersed, the people saw a figure standing proudly between heaven and earth. Who else could it be but Li Changsheng? Li Changsheng won. Countless people had mixed feelings. Golden Armor Old Ancestor was already a half-step Earth Immortal, but he still could not escape the fate of being killed by Li Changsheng. Then, what kind of realm was Li Changsheng in? Earth Immortal? That was obviously not possible. If Li Changsheng was an Earth Immortal, golden armor old ancestor would not have been able to fight with Li Changsheng for such a long time. But if he was not an earth immortal, how could he kill golden armor old ancestor who was a half-step earth immortal? Maybe he's also a half-step earth immortal. That was the only thought people had. The disciples of Verdant sect, Mount Shu, Qingcheng, Wudong, and other sects cheered excitedly at this moment. Golden armor old ancestor destroyed the mountain gates of several major sects and forced them to become homeless dogs. Now, golden armor old ancestor was finally dead. Master, after Li Changsheng landed, Zhou Hong, Tong Xian, and the other disciples all knelt on the ground. Master, I am incompetent. Even the sect was destroyed. Zhou Hong lowered his head and said, How can I blame you? That golden armor old ancestor was so powerful that even I almost couldn't subdue him. Li Changsheng helped Zhou Hong up. When he first accepted this eldest disciple as his disciple, he was completely moved by his perseverance. Now that he was already in the Vajra realm, and after being hunted down by the gold-armored patriarch, his strength had obviously improved again. Unintentionally planting a willow, the willow is a shade. Li Changsheng sighed inwardly. Since the sect has been destroyed, we can just rebuild it. Then, Li Changsheng thanked Yin Shuangying of the Qingchang sect, Song Zhen, the leader of the Wudong sect, and the others respectively. When the disciples of the Qingchang sect were in trouble, they helped them, but in the end, the sect was destroyed, and many of their disciples were killed by the gold-armored ancestor. I, Li Changsheng, will never forget your great kindness. If you need my help in the future, just say the word. I, Li Changsheng, and all the disciples of the Verdant sect will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. Li Changsheng said solemnly. The leaders of the various sects hurriedly returned the salute. At the same time, they were secretly delighted. This time, they helped the Verdant sect and gained Li Changsheng's friendship. In their opinion, everything was worth it. Those sects that had closed their doors and refused to help the Verdant sect were regretting it at this moment. Li Changsheng had killed the gold-armored patriarch, so he was undoubtedly the strongest person in the world today. If such a person could gain his friendship, it would be very precious. Unfortunately, the best time to help him in his hour of need had passed. Even if they wanted to curry favor with Li Changsheng now, it would just be icing on the cake. Li Changsheng might not remember their kindness in his heart. Because the headquarters of the Verdant sect had been destroyed, Li Changsheng was not in the mood to be a guest of the major sections. After bidding farewell to the people of the various sects, he went to a mountain not far from the Mount Shu sect. Li Changsheng asked the people of the Verdant sect to set up camp nearby while he began to get busy. Every day, he would send all kinds of flags into the mountain range. After 49 days, after a period of repair, the sects that had been destroyed by the gold-armored patriarch had almost all been repaired. When they heard that Li Changsheng was near the Mount Shu sect, many people came to visit. On this day, Li Changsheng finished his work and returned to the stronghold of the Verdant sect. The leaders of the various sects greeted Li Changsheng. Greetings, Mr. Li. Now Li Changsheng was truly the strongest person in the world. Even the patriarchs of the sects who had been in seclusion for a long time took the initiative to come out of seclusion. When they saw Li Changsheng, they also treated him as an equal. There was no one who dared to treat Li Changsheng as a junior. The current Li Changsheng was not someone who dared to treat him as a junior. Everyone is here at the right time. Today, you can witness the reconstruction of the Verdant sect. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, everyone's face was filled with doubt. Is the Verdant sect going to choose to build a sect in the land of Shu instead of on the sea? Li Changsheng didn't explain much. Instead, he asked everyone to retreat 100 miles. Half an hour later, he suddenly cast a spell. Boom! A huge tremor came from the entire earth. Under Li Changsheng's control, 5 mountains rose from the ground and went straight into the sky. Then, Li Changsheng turned into a god-fiend and flew to the East Sea with the 5 mountains in his hand. In the distance, the leaders of the various sects looked at the scene in the sky and were all dumbfounded. Last time in the capital, Li Changsheng moved a small mountain to the East Sea. In the eyes of many people, it was already a big deal. However, compared to today, it was really a small matter. Each of the 5 mountains was tens of thousands of feet tall. Now, Li Changsheng directly moved them with his hand. He was simply a legendary god fiend. Even if Li Changsheng is not an earth immortal, he is not far from it. Wu-Tang sect leader Song Zhun muttered to himself. He remembered the first time he saw Li Changsheng. At that time, Li Changsheng's expression was amazing, but there was still a big gap between him and now. After the battle with the gold-armored patriarch, Li Changsheng was like a towering mountain that they could only look up to. The battle with the gold-armored patriarch had indeed benefited Li Changsheng a lot. Recently, he had felt the barrier of the earth immortal realm. He only needed one step to enter that mysterious realm. The 5 mountains were carried by Li Changsheng out of the land of Shu, across 3 major provinces, and from Nantian Island to the East Sea. This time, he kept going deeper and deeper and chose to build the sect on the Demon Island where the headquarters of the Demon League was located. The last time Li Changsheng went to the Flame Island, he found that the location of the Verdant sect's headquarters was too remote and the spirit chi was very poor. If he wanted to use the spirit chi, he had to connect with the spirit vein at the bottom of the sea, which was time-consuming and energy-consuming. The Demon Island, where the headquarters of the Demon League was located, had a huge spirit vein, which was a good place to build a sect. Moreover, the gold-armored patriarch had been killed by Li Changsheng, and several monster kings had been subdued by Li Changsheng. Now, the Demon League had completely become Li Changsheng's territory. Li Changsheng had long planned to integrate the Demon League and the Verdant sect, which could solve the current situation of the Verdant sect being weak. Li Changsheng carried the 5 mountains and landed on the Demon Island. Countless demons fled in panic. The monster kings, who were left behind by Li Changsheng to manage the demons, hurriedly came out and saluted when they saw Li Changsheng. Disperse all the demons on the island. I want to root these 5 mountains on the island. Hearing Li Changsheng's order, the monster kings didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly ran away. Then, they saw the 5 mountains falling from the sky. Rumble! On the sea, there were huge waves, and countless fish and prawns were sent flying out of the sea. With this earth-shattering noise, it also announced that the Verdant sect had officially become the overlord of the sea. Chapter 730. Li Changsheng placed the 5 mountains on the Demon Island, and the several demon kings on the island hurriedly came forward to salute him. A few days later, the eldest disciple, Zhou Hong, arrived with Tong Xian, Wang Hua, and Lu Chong. Looking at the 5 towering mountains, their minds swayed. Gather all the members of the Demon League on the Demon Island and help me build a cave mansion. As soon as Li Changsheng gave the order, countless small demons rushed to the Demon Island. Looking at the demon aura on the Demon Island, Li Changsheng couldn't help but frown. His green sect was, after all, a human sect. Although he believed in teaching without discrimination and didn't distinguish between humans and demons, these demons were cruel and violent. If he left in the future, Zhou Hong and the others wouldn't be able to suppress them with their strength. Although he was worried, he didn't have a good solution at the moment. Fortunately, Li Changsheng had planted control talismans on the Demon Kings, so these people didn't dare to betray Li Changsheng. However, whether Zhou Hong could take over the overall situation in the future depended on his own ability. After all, not daring to betray Li Changsheng didn't mean that they would obey Zhou Hong's words. With so many small demons, Li Changsheng suddenly thought of a magic tool, the Demon Converging Banner. According to the legend, this super magic tool could control thousands of demons. But thinking of the materials needed to refine this magic tool, Li Changsheng could only think about it. Today's spirit chi was severely depleted, so there was no condition for Li Changsheng to refine a super magic tool. Otherwise, Li Changsheng wouldn't only have 2 magic tools in his hands, the Wishful Heart Sword and the Ardent Dragon Spear. Moreover, they were both snatched from the hands of others. These small demons were easy to use. Because of the large number of people, a demon mansion was soon built. In the past, these demons on the Demon Island either lived in water or in caves. Now that they were building a tall palace, it suddenly had a bit of immortal meaning. Li Changsheng once again laid down countless formations. The incident with the golden armored ancestor had given him a great warning. If he hadn't been so quick-witted to leave behind some backup plans, his 3 disciples would have already become the golden armored ancestor's meal. After laying down layer after layer of formations, coupled with the guidance of the underground spirit vein, the entire demon island was shrouded in a layer of thick fog, giving it a bit of the aura of an immortal. In the main hall of the demon island, Li Changsheng sat on the main seat. His 3 disciples, Zhou Hong, Tong Xian, and Wang Hua, sat on his left and right sides respectively. Below them were several demon kings. Xing Hu, who had benefited from Li Changsheng's influence, had also become a junior commander. Now that the verdant sect had completely incorporated the Demon League, Li Changsheng sat on the high throne and looked down at the many disciples and demon kings. He felt accomplished. According to the level of cultivation, the 6 demon kings were appointed as guardian kings. The eldest disciple, Zhou Hong, was appointed as the junior headmaster. The second disciple, Tong Xian, the third disciple, Wang Hua, was appointed as the successor disciple. Lu Chong, hall leader Arjuna, and junior commander Xing Hu. According to the observation of the demons of the Demon League these days, 120 great demons were appointed as demon generals, 1,800 small demons were appointed as demon soldiers, and the rest of the mixed demons were peripheral minions. These were all the members of the verdant sect. Li Changsheng's gaze fell upon the crowd. Everyone was extremely respectful. Next, Li Changsheng passed down a suitable cultivation method according to the strength of each disciple and the attribute of their body. As for the 6 demon kings, the cultivation of the demon race was very different from that of the human race. Moreover, they were already mysterious finger realm experts. Li Changsheng had nothing to give them. He just left a few places on the demon island with rich lingqi for them to cultivate, which could be regarded as a favor to them. As for the other small demons, they were divided into areas according to their respective status and were allowed to build their own cave residence. The verdant sect was running in an orderly manner. After finishing these things, Li Changsheng handed over the affairs of the sect to Zhou Hong to manage. He entered a spiritual vein inside the demon island and began to cultivate. The battle with the golden armor ancestor also gave Li Changsheng a lot of inspiration. The inside of the island was very deep, and only the rich lingqi filled the air. As long as Li Changsheng breathed gently, the lingqi would enter his body. Li Changsheng placed the ardent dragon spear and the wishful heart sword on both sides. He sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate. The dense lingqi poured into his body from the 108,000 pores on his body. His body emitted the sound of a rushing river. In his dantian, the azure lotus seedling and the golden flood dragon each minded their own business. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. On this day, Li Changsheng woke up from his cultivation state. He put away the ardent dragon spear and the wishful heart sword and appeared in the main hall. Seeing that the verdant sect was well managed by Zhou Hong, he nodded with relief. He called Zhou Hong with his divine sense and told him a few words. Then, he directly left the demon island. After half a year of cultivation, Li Changsheng felt that his cultivation had reached the peak. It was like a bottle that was full of water. Even if he continued to cultivate, he could not go any further. What he needed to do now was to expand the bottle and break the original shackles. However, every time he wanted to take that step, he felt suppressed by a powerful force. He finally understood why there were no Earth immortals on Earth after the Qin dynasty. He did not know what happened to this world that made it unable to accommodate the existence of the power above the Earth immortal realm. Therefore, the heavenly Tao would suppress those who reached this realm. If one wanted to break through, they had to leave this world. Otherwise, under the suppression of the heavenly Tao, it was impossible to break through to the Earth immortal realm. Legend had it that countless powerhouses could eventually ascend to the immortal realm. The so-called ascension should be leaving this world. As far as Li Changsheng knew, There was only one way to leave this world, and that was to break the space barrier like when he fought with the gold-armored ancestor. However, when the barrier had just been opened, several powerful thoughts had descended. Those existences were above the Earth immortal realm. If he forced his way out, he was afraid that he would immediately be besieged by countless powerhouses. This was obviously not advisable. Since the ancestors of the past could leave, there must be other ways. Li Chongqing thought. His figure drew an afterimage in the air, heading in the direction of the Wu-Tang sect. 500 years ago, Zhang Sanfeng, the slovenly Taoist of the Wu-Tang sect, broke through the void and left some records. Wu-Tang Mountain was now a very famous scenic spot. Hundreds of thousands of tourists came to visit every day. Li Chongqing was mixed in the crowd and was not conspicuous. When he finished his tour in front, he quietly came to a cliff. Clouds lingered on the cliff, but Li Chongqing knew that this was the real entrance of Wu-Tang Mountain. The opening in front of him was only a very small part of Wu-Tang Mountain. "Hello, friend, don't stand on the edge of the cliff. It's dangerous." A woman's voice rang out. Li Chongqing turned around and saw a woman in a white dress. Her long hair was blown by the gentle wind. She was looking at Li Chongqing anxiously. "It's okay. I'm just going down to have a look." Li Chongqing grinned, then jumped down the cliff in front of the woman's stunned eyes. Chapter 731. Inside the valley was the Real Mountain Gate of Wudong sect. The Wudong sect had set up countless formations here. After the last time they were broken by the gold-armored ancestor, after half a year of repair, they had basically returned to their original state. Li Chongqing jumped down, and immediately a dense barrage of attacks landed on his body. Li Chongqing didn't care about it at all. His figure kept changing in the air, and those attacks missed one by one. Before the next wave of attacks was launched, he had already broken through the formation. Although the Wudong sect formation was wonderful, in Li Chongqing's eyes, it was very low level. As soon as he entered the valley and passed through the formation, he heard a burst of laughter. Li Chongqing had just taken 2 steps when he alarmed the people inside. A group of people rushed over with a whoosh. "Who dares to break into my Wudong sect formation?" It was a group of young people in their 20s, all dressed in white. There were men and women. The men were handsome, and the women were beautiful. If they were in the secular world, they would be better than those movie stars. "I'm here to see the leader of Wudong sect, Song Jun." Li Chongqing said very politely. Last time, the Azure sect was forced to flee in all directions by the gold-armored ancestor. Many sects prohibited the Azure sect from entering, and Wudong sect was one of the few sects that was willing to help. It could be said that the Azure sect and Li Chongqing were indebted to them. What a big tone. Do you think anyone can see our leader just because they want to? These days, many people have come to see our leader. Our leader doesn't have time to see you. A tall young man said coldly. As he said that, the other party waved his hand impatiently and said, "Leave quickly." Li Chongqing just smiled at the other party's attitude. The other party was just an ordinary disciple of the Wudong sect. It was understandable that he didn't know him. Seeing that Li Chongqing didn't intend to leave after hearing his words, the young man suddenly frowned. He said unhappily, "Kid, why haven't you left yet? Haven't my words been clear enough? Who do you think you are? Do you think you can see our leader just because you want to?" When the other party said this, Li Chongqing's gaze turned cold. Previously, he had allowed Li Chongqing to leave because he didn't know the situation. But now he was looking down on him. And at this time, a sweet-looking woman suddenly opened her mouth and said, "Senior Apprentice Brother Zewan, since the other party says he wants to see the sect master, why don't we go in and inform him? If he really is an honored guest of the sect master, wouldn't we end up making a fool of ourselves?" When he heard the woman, the young man thought for a moment before sizing up Li Chongqing from top to bottom, and then he sneered. "Junior Sister Baiying, does he look like a distinguished guest to you? I don't know which sect he is from, but when he heard that our Wu-Tang sect has become popular in the cultivation world, he also came here to curry favor with us. Last month, I thought that the guy who called himself the East Lake Patriarch was some big shot, But it turned out that he had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, and his strength was not even comparable to that of an ordinary disciple. Hearing Song Ziyuan say this, Buying immediately hesitated. At this moment, Song Ziyuan looked down at Li Changsheng with a condescending expression and said in a cold voice, "Brat, are you deaf? Didn't you hear me tell you to get lost? If you don't get lost, don't blame me for being rude to you." Huh. The sect master of the Wu-Tang sect, Song Zhun, is considered a gentleman. I didn't expect that the disciples of the sect would be so unsightly. What did you say? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Song Ziyuan said angrily, "I hate disciples of small sects like you the most. You don't have much strength, but you still think you're some big shot. If you don't get lost, do you believe that I won't break your legs?" Song Ziyuan waved his hand, and a sword that shone with a cold light appeared out of thin air. He pointed the sword at Li Changsheng with a smug look on his face. "I'll count to 3. If you don't get lost, I'll use this sword to cripple you. Brat, leave quickly." Senior apprentice Brother Ziyuan is one of the best among the 4th-generation disciples of our Wu-Tang sect. If you annoy him, he will really make a move on you. Yeah, Senior apprentice Brother Ziyuan's swordsmanship is very powerful. Why do you have to ask for trouble? The woman named Buying also advised, "You'd better leave. Without the permission of the sect, you broke into the formation. Even if Senior apprentice Brother Ziyuan kills you, your elders won't dare to come to Wu-Tang Mountain to seek justice for you. Even if you die, it will be in vain." Hearing the voices around him, Li Changsheng was unmoved. He just looked at Song Ziyuan quietly. "Go in and report to Song Zhun immediately. Then kneel down and kowtow to apologize. I won't argue with a junior like you." "What did you say?" Song Ziyuan's eyes widened. The people around him also had a look of disbelief. Song Ziyuan was also a true disciple of the 4th generation. Moreover, his surname was Song, and he was a relative of the sect master, Song Zhun. Someone actually asked him to kneel down and kowtow. Wasn't this courting death? The woman named Buying could not help but shake her head. She originally wanted to help Li Changsheng say a few words, but she did not expect that Li Changsheng would dare to speak so arrogantly. He simply did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. At this time, Song Ziyuan's eyes revealed a bit of coldness. "Boy, since you dare to boast so shamelessly, then I'll let you taste the power of the sword in my hand." As he said that, he stabbed towards Li Changsheng's position. This sword was quite extraordinary. It was aimed at Li Changsheng's heart. What a vicious guy. I have no enmity with him, but he wants to kill me. Li Changsheng was really angry this time. He always had a good impression of the Wu-Tang sect. The other party was a disciple of the Wu-Tang sect, so he repeatedly tolerated it. However, the other party did not know what was good for him, seeing that the sword had already arrived in front of Li Changsheng, but Li Changsheng still did not move. Song Ziyuan's eyes could not help but show a bit of pride, thinking to himself, "I guessed right. He's a weak boy." Everyone around him looked at him with pity. However, at this moment, when the sword was about to pierce Li Changsheng's body, Li Changsheng suddenly stretched out his hand and accurately clamped Song Ziyuan's sword with 2 fingers. In the next second, Song Ziyuan's attack came to an abrupt end. He found that he could not move forward even if he used all his strength. How can this be? His face revealed a look of horror. To be able to clamp his sword with just 2 fingers, this strength could be said to be terrifying. The young men and women around all looked at this scene in disbelief. They knew Song Ziyuan's strength. To be able to clamp Song Ziyuan's sword with 1 hand, perhaps only the elders in the sect could do it. At this time, the aura on Song Ziyuan's body flickered and suddenly poured into the sword, wanting to pierce Li Changsheng's body. Li Changsheng's eyes became even colder. The sword was only 2 fingers away from his heart. The other party's strength at this time meant that he was definitely not pretending. He really wanted to kill him. In an instant, his fingers trembled slightly. With a crack, the sword made of refined steel broke layer by layer and broke into several pieces. Li Changsheng took a step forward at the same time, and like a ghost, his palm imprinted on Song Ziyuan's chest. Bang! In an instant, Song Ziyuan flew out and landed more than 10 meters away. blood was constantly spitting out from his mouth. The scene suddenly fell into silence. Chapter 732. How dare you hit a disciple of our Wudong sect? You're courting death. A group of young disciples pulled out their swords and surrounded Li Changsheng. The girl named Baiying couldn't help but sigh. Although she felt that Song Ziyuan's words were a bit too much at the beginning, Li Changsheng dared to hurt people, which was a bit of a disregard for the Wudong sect. Hurry up and report to the elders in the sect. A group of disciples surrounded Li Changsheng, but they didn't dare to act rashly. They weren't stupid. The scene of Li Changsheng defeating Song Ziyuan just now was enough to shock them. Kid, you're finished. When my master comes, I'll let you die without a burial place. Song Ziyuan shouted with a vicious face. Soon, there was a sound of something breaking through the air, and several figures quickly appeared. Who is it? How dare you come to the Wudong sect to pick a fight? An old man quickly approached. His hair and beard were white, and he had a sage-like demeanor with anger. Elder Lu is here. Elder Lu, this is the thief who injured senior brother Ziyuan. Seeing the elders of the sect appear, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that Li Changsheng would turn around and run away before the elders arrived. If that happened, they wouldn't be able to stop him. Elder Lu, we meet again, Li Changsheng said with a smile. Li Changsheng and this elder had met when he was fighting the gold-armored ancestor last time. You're Mr. Li? Elder Lu's eyes widened. Mr. Li, why are you here? As soon as Elder Lu's words fell, all the disciples of the Wudong sect were dumbfounded. What's going on? He knows the elders of our sect. What's going on? Elder Lu's eyes swept across the crowd, and his face suddenly became gloomy. He knew that with Li Changsheng's identity, if he wasn't furious, how could he be angry with these juniors? The group of disciples stuttered. If they were to talk about it carefully, they were indeed in the wrong. How dare you offend Mr. Li? I'll show you. Elder Lu snorted coldly and hurriedly pushed aside the two disciples surrounding Li Changsheng and went forward to welcome him. Mr. Li, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling of the Wu-Tang clan. The sect master is in the main hall. If he knows that Mr. Li is coming, he will definitely come out to welcome you personally. There's no need. We're all family, so there's no need to be so polite. Li Changsheng walked in under Elder Lu's greeting. As for the group of young disciples, they were all dumbfounded. Elder Lu's words made them feel like their brains were buzzing. Song Xin, who was lying on the ground, also had a bitter expression on his face. The elders of his sect actually didn't stand up for him. Could it be that he had been beaten for nothing? In the Wu-Tang clan's guest hall, Song Zhen, who had received the news, hurriedly came out to greet them. Mr. Li, you're finally here. Today, Li Changsheng was the strongest in the world of cultivators. Because the Wu-Tang clan had a good relationship with Li Changsheng, their status in the world of cultivators was constantly rising. You're too kind, Sect Master Song. Li Changsheng walked into the hall with a smile and sat down in the living room. While everyone was quietly sizing up Li Changsheng was also sizing up everyone in the hall. He found that the sect master Song Zhen's cultivation had broken through to the finger profound realm. When he fought with the gold-armored ancestor last time, he found that Song Zhen was already at the peak of the Vajra realm. This time, it didn't take long for him to have another breakthrough. Moreover, it wasn't just Song Zhen. Even the siblings Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue of Mount Shu, as well as Yi Yin and Shuangying of Mount Shu, had their cultivation improved by leaps and bounds in the past year. It seemed that some kind of subtle change had taken place in this world. However, Li Changsheng still didn't know the reason for this change. At this time, Song Zhen shook his head. Mr. Li, how can you sit here? You should sit on the main seat with me. As he said that, he ordered one of his disciples to bring a chair over and place it side by side with Song Zhen's chair. Well, I'm a guest. I'll just sit below. Li Changsheng still refused. However, Song Zhen insisted on holding Li Changsheng's hand and insisted that he sit on the main seat. The higher-ups of the Wu-Tang sect didn't think much of it. With Li Changsheng's current status, which sect didn't respect him like a god? Sitting on the main seat was nothing. Moreover, Li Changsheng was so modest and kept refusing, which made them feel very pleasing to the eye. The #1 expert in the cultivation world is so friendly to our Wu-Tang sect. It's really a blessing for our Wu-Tang sect. Because of Song Jun's insistence, Li Changsheng couldn't refuse, so he had to sit on the main seat. At this moment, Bai Ying, who was quietly watching from the entrance of the hall, saw Li Changsheng sitting side by side with the sect master Song Jun. His eyes almost popped out, and his face was full of disbelief. He thought to himself, "Who is this young man? How dare he sit on the same level as the sect master? Mr. Li, what can I do for you to visit our Wu-Tang sect?" Song Jun asked in a clear voice. He knew that with Li Changsheng's identity, how could he come to Wu-Tang Mountain for no reason? He couldn't be here just to visit. "I do have something to trouble you with, sect master Song." When Li Changsheng asked about the sloppy Taoist Zhang Sanfeng who broke through the void and left, Song Jun's face showed a troubled look. He waved his hand, and many elders in the hall tactfully retreated. In the end, only he and Li Changsheng were left in the room. "Mr. Li, the matter about the ancestral master Zhang Sanfeng is the biggest secret of our Wu-Tang sect. Only the sect masters of each generation are qualified to know about it. Even the elders don't know about it. It seems that it's a taboo of the Wu-Tang sect. I was a bit reckless." Li Changsheng hurriedly apologized. Every sect had their own taboo things that couldn't be known to outsiders. Li Changsheng should respect their rules. "If this matter makes things difficult for sect master Song, then I won't ask." No. Song Jun waved his hand. "The reason why it's a taboo is not that it's unspeakable, but that it's very dangerous. I'm afraid that if the disciples know about it, they won't be able to control their curiosity and will lose their lives." After Song Jun finished speaking, he looked at Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, I can tell you this secret, but you must promise not to disclose it to anyone. Otherwise, it's very likely to bring disaster to our Wu-Tang sect," Song Jun said solemnly, and Li Changsheng didn't dare to neglect it. He immediately pointed to the sky and swore, "If I, Li Changsheng, reveal any information about what sect master Song Jun said today, I will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Ordinary people might be able to forget it after making an oath, but cultivators were different. Cultivators merged their bodies with the heavenly Tao, and their hearts were the heavenly Tao. They would naturally sense the oath they made. If they violated it, they might not be able to see anything at first, but when their martial arts were profound, they would inevitably be attacked by inner demons. Therefore, they generally wouldn't swear easily. Seeing Li Changsheng swear, Song Jun felt relieved and said, "Actually, my Wu-Tang sect was inherited from the true martial immortal sect, one of the top 10 ancient sections. The founder of the sect was not Taoist Master Sanfeng, but the legendary Great Emperor Zhenwu. However, a catastrophe happened on Earth later. The immortals and Buddhas fell, and the true martial immortal sect was almost destroyed in that battle. In the end, they hid their orthodoxy. 500 years ago, Taoist Master Sanfeng broke into a relic and obtained part of the inheritance of the true martial immortal sect, establishing the Wu-Tang sect. After Taoist Master Sanfeng left through the void, several elders of the sect went in to explore and eventually died inside. Therefore, the relic of the true martial immortal sect has been listed as a forbidden area." Li Changsheng hurriedly explained, "What I want to know is, how did Taoist Master Sanfeng leave through the void? As for the relic of the true martial immortal sect, I have absolutely nothing to do with it. I mean it. Indeed, the true martial immortal sect was inherited from ancient times, so it was naturally very powerful. However, Li Changsheng himself had survived from that era to the present, so he would not go so far as to spy on the opportunities in the relic. What he wanted to know was how Zhang Sanfeng left through the void." According to the historical records of the sect, when Taoist Master Sanfeng was a half-step Earth Celestial, he was also looking for a way to leave. In the end, he entered the true martial relic again. After coming out, he arranged things and flew away. Not long after, there was news of him leaving through the void. Therefore, I guess that the way to leave this world may be in the true martial relic, Songjin said. It seems that I have to enter the relic to explore it. Li Changsheng stood up and cupped his hands to Songjin. Sect leader Song, I beg you to let me enter the relic. I will repay the kindness of the Wu-Tang sect in the future. Songjin nodded. Mr. Li, since I told you about the relic, I naturally intend to let you enter. However, the relic is not in my Wu-Tang sect, and the relic opens every 3 years. There are still 3 months before the next opening. I see. Then, where is the relic? When is the specific opening time? Songjin took out a map in his hand and pointed. It is here, 500 miles away from my Wu-Tang sect. Well, thank you for your guidance, sect leader Song. Then I will wait for another 3 months. It just so happens that during these 3 months, I will help the Wu-Tang sect repair the mountain guarding array. Since Li Changsheng had received a favor from the other party, he naturally had to repay the favor he had received. When he broke in this time, he found that although the Wu-Tang sect's array was very complicated, it was not very powerful. Therefore, he had the idea of helping them arrange the array. Thank you, Mr. Li. Songjin hurriedly cupped his hands and said, It is the Wu-Tang sect's fortune that Mr. Li can stay in our sect for 3 months. It just so happens that I have a lot of questions about cultivation to ask. For a powerhouse like Li Changsheng, his understanding of martial arts was a supreme treasure for others. Songjin told Li Changsheng about the relic. Naturally, it was not a selfless contribution. His ultimate goal was to let Li Changsheng help him teach and solve his doubts. There was no kindness in the world for no reason. Li Changsheng saw this point and took the initiative to ask to stay in the Wu-Tang sect for 3 months. Chapter 733. Li Changsheng officially stayed in the Wu-Tang sect. These days, he sat with Songjin every day to discuss the Tao. After living for tens of thousands of years, Li Changsheng had cultivated countless cultivation methods, and his understanding of the Tao was too deep. So much so that even though Songjin was the sect master of a sect, at first he was completely confused by the contents of Li Changsheng's lecture. Later on, Li Changsheng saw that his lecture was too profound, so he began to go from simple to complex, from shallow to deep. Only then was Songjin barely able to keep up with Li Changsheng's thoughts. A month passed in a flash. Songjin's cultivation became more and more profound, and he became more respectful to Li Changsheng. However, there were a lot of rumors circulating in the Wu-Tang sect. Since Li Changsheng met Songjin, he stayed in the main hall with Songjin and did not go out. There was news that Li Changsheng injured the sect's disciples and must have been arrested by Songjin. At first, some people refuted it, especially Bai Ying. She saw Li Changsheng and Songjin sitting on the same level. But there was no news of Li Changsheng for a month. The rumors were real, and people began to believe them. Song Ziyuan, who offended Li Changsheng at the beginning, was enjoying himself again these days. He spread word that this was the consequence of offending him. On this day, the annual Tao discussion of the Wu-Tang sect began. The young disciples in the sect had to compete to determine their status in the sect. Li Changsheng sat in the hall. The elders and higher-ups of the Wu-Tang sect were respectful to him, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. Songjin also had some things to say to the higher-ups of the sect, so he found an excuse to stroll outside. This mountain occupied a large spirit vein, and the spirit energy was abundant. Li Changsheng strolled in the mountain. A hazy fog filled the air. As long as he took a deep breath, abundant spirit energy would enter his body. Even ordinary people who did not know how to cultivate could live in such a place and not be affected by diseases. After walking for a while, they arrived at a martial arts practice square of the Wudong Mountain and saw that there were many people gathered there. There were 200 to 300 men and women, and the youngest was only 7 or 8 years old. Although they were children with young faces, their every move had the demeanor of an immortal. It was obvious that they had already embarked on the path of cultivation. The oldest of them was only in their 30s, and they were all third and fourth generation disciples of the Wudong clan. As Li Changsheng strolled around, he saw a lifelike statue in the middle of the square with a tortoise and snake entwined around it. He knew that it was the original form of great Emperor Zhenwu. Although Taoist master Sanfeng founded the Wudong sect, in the hearts of the Wudong sect's sect masters, they were all successors of the true martial immortal sect. Unfortunately, according to Song Zhen, even Zhang Sanfeng, the true martial immortal sect's inheritance was incomplete. Otherwise, the Wudong sect would definitely be more powerful. It was very likely that the true martial immortal sect's most complete inheritance was hidden in the true martial immortal ruins. Unfortunately, even Zhang Sanfeng couldn't enter the depths of the ruins after several explorations. After Zhang Sanfeng left, some of the other experts of the Wudong sect couldn't even break into the periphery of the ruins. Song Zhen told Li Changsheng about the ruins, and it wasn't necessarily without the intention of letting Li Changsheng bring out the inheritance inside. After all, if they couldn't obtain the complete inheritance of the true martial immortal sect, the Wudong sect wouldn't be the descendants of the true martial immortal sect. The reason why they hadn't dared to name themselves the true martial immortal sect was because they felt that it wasn't proper. While Li Changsheng was strolling around, several figures suddenly surrounded him and blocked his path. It was Song Ziyuan, who was injured by Li Changsheng. "Boy, I didn't expect you to be free and still dare to stroll around." In Song Ziyuan's heart, he had already determined that Li Changsheng was imprisoned by the Dean Song Zhen. So at this moment, after seeing Li Changsheng in the square, Song Ziyuan immediately felt that the opportunity for revenge had come. Although Li Changsheng disliked this Song Ziyuan, he later found out that he was Song Zhen's nephew. Although Song Zhen had schemed against Li Changsheng, at the end of the day, he was still indebted to him. Therefore, Li Changsheng didn't want to bicker with him and turned to walk around him. However, Li Changsheng's evasion increased Song Ziyuan's arrogance. He took a step forward and reached out to grab Li Changsheng. "Boy, if you hurt me one day, see if I don't teach you a good lesson today." This Song Ziyuan was originally afraid of Li Changsheng's strength, but he felt that after Li Changsheng had been imprisoned for a month, he must have been honest, so he dared to attack unscrupulously. In this regard, Li Changsheng's face changed. He gave Song Zhen face, but it didn't mean that he would let a junior provoke him again and again. When the other party's palm reached out, he suddenly reached out and grabbed the other party's wrist and then twisted it with all his strength. With a kacha sound, the other party's wrist was directly broken. Song Ziyuan let out a scream. In the next second, Li Changsheng kicked his lower abdomen, and his whole body flew out 8 or 9 meters like a cloud and landed on the square. Soon, the movement here attracted many people's attention. Who is this person? He even dared to hit Song Ziyuan. Don't he know that Song Ziyuan is the dean's nephew? Looking at his clothes, he doesn't look like a disciple of our Wu-Tang clan. Is he a disciple of another sect who came to visit? The Wu-Tang clan's annual Truth Discussion Conference would invite some of the surrounding sects and friendly sects to come and watch the competition. The younger generation of other sects could also spar with the disciples of the Wu-Tang clan. The final winner would be given something valuable as a reward by the Wu-Tang clan, and this time was no exception. Now, there were more than a dozen disciples in the square wearing the clothes of other sections. Our Wu-Tang clan is a big sect in the world of cultivation. Disciples of other sects are guests. How can a guest hit the host? Yeah, this is too much. He doesn't put our Wu-Tang clan in his eyes at all. It seems that Song Ziyuan provoked him first. Someone whispered. Even if Song Ziyuan provoked him, he shouldn't have hit him so hard, right? Look, Song Ziyuan is vomiting blood. People tended to side with their friends and not with reason. Song Ziyuan was a disciple of the Wu-Tang clan after all, and they certainly wouldn't side with Li Changsheng, an outsider. "Li, you dare to hurt me. You're finished." Song Ziyuan glared at Li Changsheng with resentment and left with the help of his companions. At this time, Bai Ying heard the noise and rushed over. When he saw that it was Li Changsheng, his face changed, and he hurriedly came over and said, "Mr. Li, I'm really sorry. My senior brother didn't know your identity. I hope you won't bother with him. Bai Ying had seen Li Changsheng and sect leader Song Zhen on an equal footing that day, so he immediately came over to apologize to Song Ziyuan. Seeing Bai Ying's attitude towards Li Changsheng, many disciples around showed surprise and thought, could it be that he's a young genius from some sect? Otherwise, with Bai Ying's identity as a successor disciple, why would he have to be so humble? I naturally won't bother with a junior, but if he provokes me again, he can't blame me. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he walked step by step to the center of the martial arts practice square. The black tortoise statue gave Li Changsheng a very strange feeling. Chapter 734. Li Changsheng walked towards the black tortoise statue in the middle of the square, and many people's eyes followed his footsteps. He had just beaten up the nephew of the Wudong sect's leader, Song Ziyuan, and this young man still dared to leisurely stroll around the square. Everyone felt that their brains were not enough. This is too arrogant. Does he think that after beating people, he'll be fine? Not only the disciples of the Wudong sect, but even those who were sent from other sects could not help but shake their heads. Running to other sects and beating their disciples, this was a provocation and a show of strength. Even if the higher-ups of the Wudong sect did not say anything, they would still be unhappy in their hearts. In the eyes of many people, Li Changsheng was too reckless. He might have a little strength, but such a person would only bring shame to the sect. Li Changsheng walked under the statue. From a distance, the statue did not look tall, but when he got closer, he realized that it was as tall as a two-story building, and he needed to look up. What is this kid doing? He looks like he hasn't seen the world. In the midst of everyone's doubts, Li Changsheng stepped on the ground, and then his body rose directly into the sky and stood on the black tortoise statue. This move immediately caused an uproar, and the disciples of the Wudong sect were even angrier. This statue was their sect's totem, and Li Changsheng was actually standing on it. This was simply too much. Come down! Get down! The disciples below were all furious. Li Changsheng did not care. He just bent down and placed his palm on the bead that was wrapped around the turtle snake. At that moment, the entire square actually felt a vibration. What's going on? What did he do? This statue was personally carved by Taoist Sanfeng. How can an outsider be allowed to mess around? In the midst of the surprise and anger, Li Changsheng closed his eyes. In his mind, ancient words were flowing. These words were filled with vicissitudes and a majestic aura. Although Li Changsheng did not recognize these words, when these words appeared in his mind, he instantly understood the meaning they were trying to express. True martial god, slaying chapter. This should be something that Zhang Sanfeng brought out from the ruins of the true martial immortal sect, and was definitely not something that was carved later on. Li Changsheng opened his eyes. The cultivation technique recorded inside was very mysterious. It was a divine ability that specifically targeted the divine soul. Li Changsheng had learned some soul attack methods before, but most of them were of little value. However, this one was absolutely sharp. An invisible attack was the most fatal. It could directly injure the enemy's soul. Sometimes, it could even become a killing blow. It was not impossible to achieve it even when fighting across realms. Li Changsheng didn't expect that he would have such a harvest after casually strolling around the square. His mood couldn't be more excited. This thing was placed on the square by Taoist Master Sanfeng. It had been more than 500 years since then, but many generations of disciples of the Wudong sect had discussed the Tao on it, but none of them had discovered the secret in this stone. It was as if it had been specially prepared for Li Changsheng. Only those who are fated to obtain the techniques in this world. This technique is fated to be mine. Just as Li Changsheng was feeling emotional, he realized that the entire square had fallen silent. He lowered his head and saw countless eyes staring at him. At the same time, a white figure walked over in an aggressive manner. Big brother, he's the one who injured me. Song Ziyuan had a bandage on one hand. He pointed at Li Changsheng on the statue with resentment. You injure my brother and dared to run to the black tortoise statue. Do you really think that there's no one in my Wudong sect? It was a man with sharp edges and corners. His eyes flickered with a sharp light. When he saw Li Changsheng standing on the black tortoise statue, his killing intent immediately became awe-inspiring. Whoosh! A sword light cut through the sky and slashed towards Li Changsheng. It was extremely sharp. This person's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Vajra realm and was close to the Finger Profound realm. His cultivation was even more profound than Li Changsheng's disciple, Zhou Hong. Senior brother Zilin, don't be impulsive. At this moment, Bai Ying stood out and stopped the young man. Senior brother Zilin, he is the sect master's distinguished guest. You must not hurt him. The sect master's distinguished guest? The man withdrew the artifact sword. His eyes were filled with bewilderment. He was Song Ziyuan's cousin and the son of the sect master, Song Zhen. He had been in seclusion for the past few days. Even when the Golden Armor Patriarch attacked the mountain gate, he did not come out. It was also because today was the annual Dao discussion conference that he had calculated the date to come out of seclusion. Who knew that as soon as he came out of seclusion, he would see his younger brother, Song Ziyuan, had his wrist broken. After hearing Song Ziyuan's exaggerated story, he was instantly furious and came to find trouble with Li Changsheng. Now that he heard that the other party was actually his father's distinguished guest, he hesitated. What distinguished guest? Big brother Lin, don't listen to Bai Ying's nonsense. How can a young kid like him be on equal footing with the sect master? When Song Zilin heard this, he felt that his younger brother's words made sense. He looked coldly at Li Changsheng and said, "Get down here. How can you tarnish the black tortoise statue?" All right. Li Changsheng also felt that his current actions were a little inappropriate. He jumped from the statue to the ground. "Kid, I don't care which sect you are from, whether you are a distinguished guest of my Wudong sect or not, but you injured my Wudong sect's disciple. As the senior brother of the Wudong sect, I can't sit idly by." Song Zilin said coldly. "Then what do you want me to do?" Li Changsheng sized up this man. His appearance was indeed somewhat similar to Song Zhen, but the difference between him and his father, Song Zhen, was that Song Zhen's temperament was as gentle as jade. Song Zilin's body was filled with a sharp aura, like an unsheathed sword, showing off its sharpness. Of course, it was not that this was bad. Young people naturally had to have courage. Li Changsheng could even see that Song Zilin's aptitude was better than his father, Song Zhen. His future achievements might be greater. You broke my cousin Song Ziyuan's wrist and ran to the black tortoise statue to do something unreasonable. I won't bully you. Cut off one of your arms and get out of the Wudong sect." Song Zilin said it casually. Li Changsheng's face changed. The surrounding people also looked at him with pity. Even if there were many ways to reattach a broken arm, there would still be flaws. The road of cultivation paid attention to the word perfection. Once there was a flaw, it meant that the foundation of the great Tao was damaged, which would affect future achievements. Senior brother, Bai Ying wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Song Zilin. Junior sister Bai Ying, you don't have to say anything. Even if he is really a distinguished guest of the Wudong sect, he will still be punished for hurting people in the Wudong sect. Even if father comes here in person, I will not change my decision. Bai Ying suddenly sighed. She knew Song Zilin's temper. She knew that unless the head of the sect, Song Zhen, appeared here, no one could stop Song Zilin. She looked at Li Changsheng with a little anger and thought, even if you are the head of the sect, you shouldn't be so arrogant. Let's see who can save you now. Chapter 735. Do you really want to fight me? Li Changsheng looked at Song Zilin calmly. Although the other party was Song Zhen's son, if he provoked him, Li Changsheng did not mind teaching him a lesson. Moreover, this young man was too arrogant. He actually wanted to cut off one of his arms. In the entire cultivation world, who would dare to say such arrogant words? Do you think I'm joking with you? Song Zilin stared at Li Changsheng with disdain. Li Changsheng was about the same age as him, so he did not put Li Changsheng in his eyes. This was his confidence. He did not lose to anyone of his generation. This was a kind of belief that he was invincible. Martial arts were like thousands of soldiers and horses crossing a single plank bridge. This kind of belief was indispensable. A brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I told you to cut off one of your arms, but you didn't listen. Then, when I make my move, you will most likely lose your life. Bai Ying, who was next to him, was a little anxious when she heard this. Eldest senior brother, you can't. Just teach him a lesson. If you take his life, it will be difficult to explain to the sect master. Junior sister Bai Ying, you don't understand. This person injured my Wu-Tang sect's disciple. If I don't kill him, others will think that my Wu-Tang sect is easy to bully in the future. But Bai Ying wanted to say something, but she did not know how to refute. Brat, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't cut off your own arm, you will die under my sword today. There is no third choice. Bai Ying's face was anxious. She knew that Song Zilin was not joking, but if he really killed Li Changsheng, he was afraid that it would cause trouble. Li Changsheng felt the killing intent from Song Zilin and narrowed his eyes. Li Changsheng didn't think that things would develop to this point. If the other party wasn't Song Zhen's son, Li Changsheng really wanted to use the Zhen Wu God-slaying chapter he had just comprehended to see if he could turn this proud son of heaven into a vegetable. Of course, he was just thinking about it. Song Zhen was Li Changsheng's friend. If Li Changsheng really did that, not only would he have to fight the entire Wu-Tang clan to the death, he would also not be able to pass the moral barrier. However, since the other party was determined to make a move, Li Changsheng wasn't a pushover. He didn't lose his temper. Thinking about it, whether it was the heart's wishful sword or the ardent dragon spear, their destructive power was too great. If they crippled this brat, it would be difficult to explain to Song Zhen. Looking down his feet, he suddenly stabbed his fingers into the ground like steel hooks and dug out a brick. Since the power of the Dharma treasure was too great, using the brick to hit people would not only make him look domineering, but it would also not really hurt his foundation. You plan to fight me with bricks? Song Zilin's eyes flickered with ferocity and coldness. In his eyes, Li Changsheng's actions were simply a provocation and an insult. At the same time, he clenched the long sword in his hand. He couldn't help but stab a hole in the youth in front of him. Eldest senior brother, don't be rude to Mr. Li. At this moment, a figure flew over quickly. He was a true disciple of the Wudong clan. When Li Changsheng came to the main hall that day, he was the one who helped Li Changsheng move the chair. Junior brother Baiyu, are you going to stop me as well? What are you two siblings thinking? Why are you siding with outsiders? Baiyu is the elder brother of the woman, Bai Ying. The siblings were both true disciples of the Wudong clan and had been passed down as legends. Although the Bai family was not part of the sect master's faction, they had a very high status in the Wudong clan. Eldest senior brother, it's not that I'm siding with outsiders, but Mr. Li's status is noble. He is the sect master's distinguished guest. You must not be rude to Mr. Li. So what if he's a distinguished guest? Even if the Heavenly King came to the Wudong clan, he would still have to abide by the rules of the Wudong clan. Song Zilin's killing intent was like a tide, and a terrifying aura spread as his clothes fluttered. I've already given him a choice. He can either cut off his own arm or die under my sword. I, Song Zilin, am a man of my word. I will never go back on my words. Eldest senior brother, Mr. Li is an existence that is on equal footing with the sect master. Moreover, he is the strongest in the cultivation world. When Baiyu said this, everyone in the hall looked at each other in disbelief. What kind of identity could bear the title of the strongest? Even Song Zilin's face was stunned. He then laughed and said, Baiyu, you've really put in a lot of effort to protect this person. What strongest? Who has ever seen such a young strongest? What's more, so what if he is the strongest? I, Song Zilin, would like to see if he can block the sword in my hand. Baiyu was so anxious that his forehead was sweating. Why was Song Zilin so stubborn? Li Changsheng's identity was extraordinary. He happened to hear his master and uncle master's discussion. The great devil who broke the Wudong clan's mountain gate with a palm some time ago had died at the hands of Li Changsheng. Just as he was about to say something, Song Zilin had already cast a fierce look at him. Junior brother Baiyu, let me ask you, how should I deal with a disciple of the Wudong clan being injured? Baiyu immediately became stunned when she heard that. Although she knew that her answer might cause Song Zilean to make the wrong decision, she still replied honestly, "As a senior brother, I should do my best to protect my junior brother and take revenge for him, even if the opponent is a supreme expert." After saying that, he hurriedly added, "But no buts. Since you understand the responsibility of a senior brother, then step aside." Li Changsheng could not help but shake his head when he heard that. He took the initiative to take a step forward and said indifferently, "Make your move. I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your father." "Teach me a lesson on behalf of my father? You're not worthy." Song Zilean immediately took out his sword. It turned into a dazzling sword light that cut through the air and slashed at Li Changsheng. The sword chi was awe-inspiring. Song Zilean was the strongest among the younger generation of the Wudong clan. He had always been conceited. At that moment, he took out his sword and wanted to cut Li Changsheng in half to fulfill his bold words. As for Li Changsheng's identity that Baiyu had mentioned before, he did not care at all about it. He was invincible as long as he was around. There would only be dead souls under his sword, and no one would be a match for him. Boom! Li Changsheng faced the dazzling sword light and simply raised his hand and flicked his finger. Clang! A crisp sound reverberated in the air. Song Zilean only felt a huge force coming from his sword. His body was shaken and he was pushed back. The long sword in his hand almost flew out of his hand. At that moment, many people on the scene had a look of horror in their eyes. Song Zilean's strength was well known in the circle. Now, his sharp sword was blocked by Li Changsheng's bare hands. No wonder he dared to challenge Song Zilean. It turns out that he's a young expert. He's really strong. I wonder which sect he's from. Many people were discussing. After Song Zilean recovered from his shock, he once again swung his sword to meet Yi Futian. Although Li Changsheng's strength was strong, Song Zilean was not afraid. Song Zilean was an extremely conceited person. He believed in the way of the sword that was the best. He would become stronger when facing a strong opponent. Any enemy in front of him would be chopped into pieces. This time, his attack was even fiercer than before. It was obvious that the previous attack was just a test. This was the killing move. Chapter 736. Bai Ying and her sister saw that Song Zilean was truly enraged and knew that they could not stop him. They could only sigh. "Brother, do you think senior brother Zilin will really kill this Li guy? What if the sect master blames him?" The sect master has always been impartial. Even if eldest senior brother is his biological son, I'm afraid he won't be able to escape punishment. If eldest senior brother can really kill Li Changsheng, that would be great. The problem is that eldest senior brother is definitely no match for Li Changsheng. When Baiyu said this, not only was his sister next to him shocked, but many of the surrounding disciples also looked unconvinced. "Senior brother Baiyu, do you look down on eldest senior brother so much? What kind of talent does eldest senior brother have? In the entire younger generation of the cultivation world, how many people can be on par with him? You're actually siding with an outsider." That's right. Although this Li guy has some strength, how can he be a match for eldest senior brother? Even his sister Bai Ying frowned. "Brother, it's not like you to boost others' morale and diminish your own. What's wrong with you?" Baiyu could only smile bitterly and shake his head in the face of the accusations and doubts of his fellow brothers and sisters. "You'll find out soon enough." At that moment, Song Zilean brandished the sword in his hand and had already rushed in front of Li Changsheng. Boom! This time, Li Changsheng did not hold back. He raised a brick in his hand and slammed it directly. The ordinary brick in his hand was covered in a layer of golden brilliance. Bang! The brick smashed on his Song Zilean's sword light. Not only did it block his sword, but also sent Song Zilean flying with a powerful force. Blood could be seen flowing from the corner of Song Zilean's mouth. Everyone around was shocked. They knew Song Zilean's strength very well, but even after using a killer move, he was still sent flying by Li Changsheng's brick. He's already injured after just exchanging blows. No wonder this Li guy dares to be so arrogant. His strength is simply unbelievable. Boom! Li Changsheng's body turned into an afterimage in the air as he charged towards Song Zilean. The golden brick slammed down without hesitation. The powerful force caused a boom in the air. The strong wind brought about by the brick was as sharp as a knife. Bang! This hit directly on Song Zilline's face. Immediately, Song Zilline's nose was flattened and his mouth was full of blood. He was like a badminton that had been hit by a racket. He fell dozens of meters away head first. You're just a junior. I originally didn't want to bother with you, but you think too highly of yourself. Do you really think you're invincible? Li Changsheng continued to walk towards where Song Zilin had landed. Li, I'm going to kill you. In fact, Song Zilin's injuries were not serious at the moment. Li Changsheng still had a sense of propriety. However, when the brick hit his face, the meaning of humiliation was even greater. It made Song Zilin so angry that he almost suffered internal injuries. Die! Song Zilin stepped on the ground and shot towards Li Changsheng like an arrow. When he was close to Li Changsheng, he raised his palm and slapped towards Li Changsheng's chest. Li Changsheng stood there motionless and let his palm hit his body. Originally, he thought that Song Zilin's angry attack could send Li Changsheng flying. However, he didn't expect that only a cracking sound could be heard. His entire arm was shaken by Li Changsheng's strength and began to deform. Hula! The sword in his hand chopped towards Li Changsheng's head. However, Li Changsheng raised the brick and smashed the sword into pieces. It turned into a pile of iron foam and fell to the ground. At the same time, he raised his foot and kicked Song Zilin's chest. Crack! The sound of bones breaking was heard. Song Zilin was sent flying again. When he landed, one could see that his chest had caved in. Again, Li Changsheng rushed in front of Song Zilin. He raised the brick in his hand and slapped it on Song Zilin's face. Bang, 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 bang. Song Zilin slapped him more than a dozen times. Song Zilin's face was covered in blood. His cheeks were badly mutilated. It was too humiliating. Li Changsheng's attacks were very measured. Even if Song Zilin's head was smashed like that, it did not really hurt his foundation. However, this also resulted in another effect, which was that Song Zilin's mind was incomparably clear from the beginning to the end. He was sober as he watched the brick fall again and again, but he couldn't even faint. This was too King uncomfortable. Mr. Li, don't you think you've gone too far? At this time, Baiyu could not stand it anymore. He and Song Zilin had a very good relationship. How could he just watch Song Zilin be abused by Li Changsheng? Yeah, you came to the Wu-Tang clan to commit murder. Do you think that there's no one left in the clan? Another disciple stood up. Stop it right now. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you. One after another, the disciples of the Wu-Tang clan approached Li Changsheng. They had murderous intent on their bodies. Li Changsheng's actions had obviously angered the crowd. What? You want to gang up on me? Then bring it on. I only need one hand to deal with scum like you. Li Changsheng actually put his other hand behind his back and held the golden brick in his right hand. He looked very much like a street gangster. However, the glittering golden brick gave people a great sense of deterrence, causing them to involuntarily feel a chill in their hearts. Although their eldest senior brother Song Zilin's abuse had aroused their anger, the brick was like a basin of cold water poured over their heads, gradually cooling their anger. There was no doubt that in the eyes of the disciples, Li Changsheng was an extremely dangerous person. Just a brick dug out from the ground was comparable to a strong magic treasure. So what if he's strong? Are we going to let him play in our home? A disciple shouted loudly. Baiyu, you know my identity, but you still want to make a move? Li Changsheng looked at Baiyu with a playful gaze. It was fine if it was someone else, but Baiyu knew his identity. Making a move was suicide. You beat my senior brother to such a state. I had no choice but to make a move. Baiyu took a deep breath and suppressed the fear in his heart. Unlike the others, who thought that they could deal with Li Changsheng by relying on their numbers, only he knew that it was useless. Senior brother Baiyu, you look like a man this time. A disciple who questioned Baiyu at that time said loudly. A bitter smile appeared on Baiyu's face. Kill this Li guy and avenge eldest senior brother. Kill, kill, kill. In the square, killing intent sword. A few disciples from other sects took the initiative to retreat to the side to watch the battle. This time, without waiting for them to make a move, Li Changsheng waved the brick and rushed into the crowd. Bang! First, he faced Bai Yu, who was second only to Song Zilin. Bai Yu didn't even have time to react before she was sent flying by Li Changsheng's brick. Then, the brick in Li Changsheng's hand suddenly turned into the size of a house and smashed down from the sky. 7 or 8 Wudong Mountain disciples were smashed and sent flying. The brick fell to the ground, smashing a big hole in the square. Smoke and dust flew, and the ground shook. Bang, 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 bang. Li Changsheng held the brick in one hand and shuttled through the crowd as if he was in a no-man's land. Wherever he passed, figures were sent flying. In the blink of an eye, 1/3 of the disciples had lost their fighting strength. Set up the formation. When the remaining people saw that they could not deal with Li Changsheng, they immediately formed a formation. Looking down from the sky, the formation was in the shape of a turtle and a snake. It was called the Black Tortoise Formation. It was also the formation that Taoist Master Sanfeng had brought out of the Jinwu ruins. However, it was incomplete. After Taoist Master Sanfeng's improvement, its power could not be underestimated. Chapter 737. I didn't expect him to force the Wu-Tang sect disciples to use the Black Tortoise Formation. This young man should be proud of himself. The disciples of the other sects who were watching the battle were a little emotional. Li Changsheng was too fierce. The combat power of the Wu-Tang sect disciples who formed the formation increased by dozens of times. The sword light was full of killing intent. I don't believe that you won't die this time. Song Ziyuan did not join the battle because his arm was broken. At this moment, except for the injury on his hand, he was intact. He stared at Li Changsheng with a face full of resentment. Damn you! You won't cry until you see the coffin. Li Changsheng felt that this kind of battle was not challenging at all, and he was too lazy to deal with them. He raised a brick in his hand, and this time it directly expanded to the size of half of the square. He smashed it down, and the strong wind blew the buildings in the square into the air. The disciples of the other sects who were watching the battle hurriedly moved away. In the face of such power, it was impossible to imagine that it came from the hands of a young man. Boom! The brick was about to fall. The Wu-Tang sect disciples who had formed the Black Tortoise Formation were all shocked at this moment. Even with such a formation, they began to panic in the face of the deterrence at this moment. Bang, 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 bang. Under the powerful pressure, the Black Tortoise Formation that was formed began to collapse. The green bricks in the square shattered one by one and finally turned into powder. What should we do? At this moment, everyone's heart was filled with despair. At this moment, a sword light flew from the distance and turned into a sword light, blocking the falling brick. A figure in white stood in the air and bowed to Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, they are all juniors. I apologize to you on their behalf. It was the Wu-Tang sect leader, Song Zhan. Li Changsheng did not really want to do anything to these disciples. Seeing Song Zhan make a move, he returned the brick and threw it on the ground. Sect leader Song, I accidentally hurt your son just now. Please don't hold a grudge in your heart. Li Changsheng said with a smile. Only then did Song Zhan look at his son. When he saw Song Zilin's bloody face, his cheeks suddenly twitched. His heart twitched as he thought, this Li Changsheng is really ruthless. However, when his divine sense swept over Song Zilin's body, he found that his great Tao foundation was not damaged at all. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. At the same time, a bitter smile appeared on his face. He thought to himself, this Li Changsheng is the #1 person in the world, but he is so petty. Although he showed mercy, he beat his son to this state. His son will probably never be able to wash away this stain in his life. However, this kind of thing was not a big deal. Song Zhan naturally would not really bicker with Li Changsheng. This time, our disciples will be taking the test. Mr. Li can be the examiner and watch with us. Song Zhan invited Li Changsheng to sit on the high platform. Immediately, some disciples came forward to clean up the chaotic battlefield. Although many of the young disciples of the Wu-Tang clan were still hostile to Li Changsheng, They were already convinced in their hearts. If it were not for the head teacher Song Jun, none of the disciples present would have a good ending. However, Song Jun was also a little depressed. This Tao discussion was originally to let his son, Song Zilin, be in the limelight and then inherit the position of young head teacher. Now that Song Zilin was beaten to this state, he was too ashamed to face anyone. At the same time, he glared viciously at his nephew, Song Ziyuan. He already knew the ins and outs of the matter. It was all this guy's fault. Song Ziyuan was a little aggrieved. Head teacher, this person came to our Wu-Tang clan and made a scene. You have to stand up for your nephew. Stand up for your sister. Song Jun cursed his nephew in his heart. However, the head teacher had to act like a head teacher. He still put on a dignified look and said in a deep voice, Song Zin, you are arrogant and rude to an honored guest. You are punished to face the wall for half a year. Song Zin still wanted to say something, but an elder had already gone up and grabbed him by the collar. He took him to the back like a chicken and threw him into a secret room to be locked up. Elder Liu, why are you locking me up? Does that Li guy think he can do whatever he wants in our Wu-Tang clan? Shut up, Elder Liu said fiercely. Song Ziyuan, you're lucky that you're the head teacher's nephew. Otherwise, I would have skinned you and pulled out your tendons. It's because of you that Song Zilin was beaten so miserably. If it weren't for the head teacher's appearance, I don't know how much trouble you would have caused. I'm not convinced, Song Ziyuan shouted loudly. What do you have to be convinced about? That Li Changsheng is the #1 expert in the cultivation world. It's our honor that he was willing to come to our Wu-Tang clan. The head teacher's recent great progress in cultivation was thanks to him. You dared to offend him. If it weren't for our Wu-Tang clan lending a helping hand when the Qing sect was in trouble, he could have crushed you with a single finger for provoking Mr. Li. After saying that, Elder Liu shook his head and left. Song Ziyuan was completely dumbfounded. His brain couldn't digest it. The #1 expert in the cultivation world? Teach Song Jun? Who on earth did I offend? On the square, the disciples of the various sects were practicing martial arts. Li Changsheng was inquiring about the black tortoise statue with Song Jun. The black tortoise statue was indeed brought out from the ruins by Ancestral Master Sanfeng. Ancestral Master Sanfeng said that this statue was extraordinary and contained an opportunity. Unfortunately, even he couldn't obtain it. For hundreds of years, countless people have tried to comprehend the statue, but they have gained nothing. To tell you the truth, Mr. Li, even I once sat under the statue for 49 days when I was young. Unfortunately, I didn't comprehend anything. Speaking of this, Song Jun's eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be that Mr. Li has obtained something? No. Li Changsheng hurriedly denied it. Since the previous generations of the Wu-Tang clan had been unable to obtain the inheritance inside, it meant that the inheritance was not fated with the Wu-Tang clan. Li Changsheng would not be stupid enough to pass on the cultivation method that he had comprehended. Really? Song Jun was an old fox. There was a hint of suspicion in his eyes. There's absolutely no lie, Li Changsheng said solemnly. If he had felt a little guilty just now, at this moment his acting was completely on point. Although Song Jun still had some doubts in his heart, Li Changsheng flatly denied it. He had no choice but to continue watching the martial arts practice in the field. Without Song Zilin, the final winner of the martial arts practice was actually the little girl, Bai Ying. There is still more than 2 months before the opening of the ruins. Starting tomorrow, I will help the Wu-Tang clan repair the array formation. After that, I plan to travel the world and come back. After all, I have already taught you almost everything that I can teach you. I'm afraid that you won't be able to digest anymore. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Song Jun nodded. He knew that Li Changsheng was telling the truth. Li Changsheng had imparted many insights to him, which had benefited him a lot. However, there were also many profound things that he still couldn't understand. Although he wanted to take advantage of this period of time to learn more from Li Changsheng, he also knew that he couldn't chew too much. If Li Changsheng imparted some more profound things to him, not only would it not help him improve, but it would also interfere with his Tao heart and cause him to have a mental block. Where does Mr. Li plan to travel? Why don't you bring my disciple, Bai Ying? Bai Ying is talented and intelligent. Although she is a woman, she has a very high cultivation talent. Moreover, the Bai family also has a lot of businesses in the secular world. They can provide you with a lot of convenience. Originally, Song Zhen wanted his son, Song Zilin, to follow Li Changsheng. However, Song Zilin was too disappointing. He had offended Li Changsheng and was beaten up like that. Song Zhen was too ashamed to say anything, so he thought of Bai Ying. Bai Ying was also his disciple and was deeply doted on by him. If a strong person like Li Changsheng could accompany Li Changsheng to gain experience, a few words of advice from Li Changsheng would be better than decades of hard work by Bai Ying. Li Changsheng naturally knew Song Zhen's plan. The Wu-Tang sect had told him about the Zhenwu ruins. Although they didn't lose anything, it was such a big secret. Of course, Song Zhen wanted to fish for as much as possible to maximize the benefits. Okay, no problem. Among the disciples of the Wu-Tang sect, Li Changsheng had a good impression of Bai Ying. Why don't you let her follow me tomorrow? I'll start repairing the array. It just so happens that I lack a handyman. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he directly got up and left. Song Zhen's face suddenly lit up with joy. Li Changsheng meant that he was even willing to teach the Tao of Array to Bai Ying. This was a pleasant surprise. Chapter 738. Hello, Mr. Li. Bai Ying stood timidly in front of Li Changsheng, her eyes filled with fear. Li Changsheng was too ferocious. The scene in the square had left a huge shadow in her heart. Standing in front of Li Changsheng, even if Li Changsheng did not speak, she felt a strong pressure. It was as if she was facing a prehistoric beast, and she was a little white rabbit in the mouth of the beast. She could be swallowed by the other party at any time. You don't have to be so afraid of me. Li Changsheng was a little helpless against the woman in front of him. Following me will only be good for you. There will be no harm. With that, Li Changsheng suddenly stood up. Bai Ying was so frightened that she took a few steps back, her face full of fear. Li Changsheng could not help but shake his head. He said to Song Zhen, who was sitting next to him, "Reason with her. If she is always so afraid of me, how can she help me?" "Yes, Mr. Li." Song Zhen waited until Li Changsheng walked out of the house and showed some helplessness. "Little Ling, do you know how many people dream of being able to follow Mr. Li Changsheng? It was not easy for Master to fight for this opportunity for you. You must seize it. Mr. Li Changsheng is proficient in all kinds of formations. In a while, you must remember his method of setting up formations. Also, you must treat every word that Mr. Li says as a treasure. Perhaps there are many things that you can't understand now. When your realm is higher in the future, you will know how great an opportunity is in front of you today. Master, is this Li Changsheng really that incredible?" Seeing that his disciples still did not believe it, Song Zhen suddenly widened his eyes. "You disciples are really troublesome. You don't know what's good for you. I asked you to follow Mr. Li, but you question Master's words. Master is telling you clearly now. If you can't learn anything from Mr. Li, I won't have you as my disciple." Seeing that Song Zhen was stern, Bai Ying nodded. Bai Ying hurriedly nodded. "Master, I understand. Since you understand, why aren't you pouring tea for Mr. Li?" "Yes, yes." Bai Ying hurriedly left the house. Li Changsheng was standing on a rock, looking at the clouds below. "Sir." Bai Ying had just approached when Li Changsheng waved his sleeve. Instantly, Bai Ying felt as if he was riding on the clouds. When he opened his eyes, he was already in front of the mountain gate. Li Changsheng began to set up the array formation. Although Bai Ying was timid, she was indeed smart. Sometimes, when there was something she did not understand, Li Changsheng only needed to casually say a few words, and she would understand. The younger generation of the Wu-Tang clan had geniuses like Song Zilin and Bai Ying. In the future, they would definitely hold up a place in the cultivation world. On the other hand, Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue of Mount Shu did not have any disciples they were proud of. In his own green sect, only Zhou Hong was good. Although Tong Xian and Wang Hua were talented, it was obviously impossible for them to surpass the Wu-Tang clan. Li Changsheng was a little distracted. He needed a last disciple to inherit his legacy. Zhou Hong, Wang Hua, and Tong Xian were obviously not enough. Mr. Li, what's wrong? After a few days of getting along, Bai Ying's fear of Li Changsheng had lessened a lot. She reached out and handed Li Changsheng a cup of tea. These days, she had completely regarded herself as Li Changsheng's maid. You don't have to serve me like this. I taught you the array formation because I owe the Wu-Tang clan a favor. Even if you are cold to me every day, I will teach you this knowledge. Teaching and dispelling doubts is like a teacher. Mr. Li, you taught me the array formation. Although you're not my master, you're still my teacher. Well, you're sensible. Li Changsheng took the tea and drank it. After drinking it, he put it aside. Only the last step of the array formation is left. After setting up the array, you go and prepare. Tomorrow, we will begin to go down the mountain. Okay. When Bai Ying heard that they were leaving the Wu-Tang clan, she was a little excited. Staying here for a long time was boring. As a Wu-Tang clan disciple, Song Jun was very strict with the management of the disciples. It was impossible for them to come and go as they pleased. Li Changsheng also saw that Bai Ying was very obedient in front of the sect elders and himself. In fact, there was still a bit of wildness in her bones. The next day, Li Changsheng said goodbye to the sect master, Song Jun, and left the mountain gate with Bai Ying. Bai Ying was dressed in white in the Wu-Tang clan. After coming out, she naturally changed into modern clothes. Simple jeans and a white shirt. She looked very pure. Walking together with Li Changsheng, she attracted the attention of many tourists who came to Wu-Tang Mountain along the way. Sir, where are we going after we go down mountain? Bai Ying left the mountain gate. She was like a bird released to nature. She was much more lively. It is said that there are many martial arts families within 1,000 miles. I plan to challenge them one by one and beat them all down. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Bai Ying could not help but widen her eyes. Her face was full of doubts. Why? Did they offend you? No, they didn't, but they got in my way. Through the conversation with Song Jun in the past few days, Li Changsheng learned that these martial arts families at the foot of Wu-Tang Mountain had not always settled here. They had only moved here in the past 2 years. It was not normal for more than a dozen martial arts families to move here in 2 years. Thinking of the opening date of the true martial immortal sect, Li Changsheng could easily infer a conclusion. These martial arts families were all here for the true martial immortal sect's ruins. In other words, the news of the true martial immortal sect's ruins had been leaked. This was also one of the important reasons why Song Jun was willing to tell Li Changsheng such a big secret. Since the secret had been leaked to a certain extent, why not take it out in exchange for Li Changsheng's friendship? My Bai family is also at the foot of Wu-Tang Mountain. We are a martial arts family. My father once said that there are many masters among the martial arts families who moved here. Even Song Jun is not willing to provoke them. Bai Ying said with some worry. Song Jun is not willing to provoke them, but I am. Anyway, there's still 2 months left. I'm very free. I have to find something to do. But Bai Ying did not know what to say. Even if he was free, did he have to find trouble with them? Besides, with so many martial arts families, if they joined forces, it would not be easy to deal with them. I heard that you haven't been home for a year. I'm very considerate of my subordinates. How about it? Do you want me to accompany you home first, and then you can follow me to challenge those martial arts families one by one? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Bai Ying's eyes suddenly lit up. Okay. After all, she was still a young girl. When she had nothing to do on Wu-Tang Mountain, she would think of her parents at home. Although her family was not far from Wu-Tang Mountain, she had not seen her parents for a whole year because of the sect's rules. Where is your home? Lead the way. Li Changsheng saw Bai Ying in a daze and could not help knocking her head. Mr. Li, my home is 200 kilometers away from Wu-Tang Mountain. So far, it's hard for us to walk there. Why don't we take a taxi? Take a taxi? Li Changsheng's face froze for a moment. He suddenly slapped his forehead and thought to himself, I've been on Wudong Mountain for so many days that I've almost become stupid. Indeed, now that society is so convenient, who would stupidly use 2 legs to walk? Chapter 739. After going down Wudong Mountain, they took a taxi to the town where Bai Ying's family was located. Taxis in tourist areas were not cheap, and the driver would not calculate according to the meter. After all, there were plenty of tourists in such places, and no one was willing to drive hundreds of miles to send two people. In particular, the town where the Bai family was located was relatively remote. Martial arts families like them generally would not set up their residence in a bustling place. It was inconvenient for people to come and go. Sometimes they would just cast a spell casually, and it would scare people. Moreover, the authorities would also send people from the special ability group to patrol. Cultivators and ordinary people had to be separated. Otherwise, the world would be in chaos. Just like the last time when Li Changsheng was in the capital, someone came to find him not long after he fought with the 5 Monster Kings. It was more than 200 kilometers away, and it took the car nearly 3 hours to arrive. "Dad, Mom, I'm back." After Bai Ying entered the courtyard of his family's mansion, he immediately shouted excitedly, "Inger, why are you back?" A man in his 50s came out, followed by a group of disciples. Bai Jinghong, Bai Ying's father, was also a successor disciple of the Wu-Tang sect when he was young. He was still an elder of the sect. "Inger, why did you come back alone? Where's your brother?" Bai Ying's mother, Yang Yun, looked around and did not see her son. She could not help but wonder. "My brother is still in the sect, and he's a little injured." Speaking of this, Bai Ying subconsciously looked at Li Changsheng. "What? Your brother is injured?" Yang Yun suddenly became anxious. "Mom, it's okay. It's just a minor injury. It's not a big deal." "That's right. Don't make a fuss." Bai Ying's father, Bai Jinghong, glared at his wife. "Can't you see that there's a guest?" Only then did Yang Yun notice Li Changsheng. She looked at Li Changsheng and then at her daughter, thinking, "This man came back with our daughter. Is he her boyfriend?" Bai Ying's cheeks suddenly turned red, as if he had seen through his parents' thoughts. "This is Mr. Li Changsheng. I went down the mountain this time under my master's order to accompany Mr. Li to gain experience." "So you're a friend of sect master Songzhan." Bai Jinghong's face immediately showed some politeness. Although the old man had the status of an elder of the Wu-Tang clan, his cultivation was not strong. Otherwise, he would not have left the Wu-Tang clan to stay at home. Behind him were several of his disciples, all of whom were curiously sizing up Li Changsheng with envy in their eyes. In their eyes, their master was already very powerful, but when it came to the elders and headmasters of the Wu-Tang clan, their faces were filled with respect. And Li Changsheng was able to become friends with the Wudong sect leader at such a young age. In their eyes, he was also an immortal. "Please come in." Bai Jinghong politely invited Li Changsheng into the living room and immediately ordered the chef to prepare a banquet to entertain Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, you don't look too old. Are you married?" Bai Jinghong probed at the banquet. "Not really." Li Changsheng shook his head. "Then what do you think of my daughter?" Bai Jinghong's eyes were filled with anticipation. Beside him, Bai Ying's cheeks were already burning. She was too ashamed to face anyone. "Dad, why are you talking about this instead of eating properly?" Bai Ying is lively and adorable. She's straightforward and beautiful. It's a blessing for the Bai clan to have such a daughter. Hearing Li Changsheng praising Bai Ying, Bai Jinghong's face bloomed with joy. Just as he was about to continue asking, his daughter tugged at his sleeve. Only then did he chuckle. However, the more he looked at Li Changsheng, the more satisfied he was. "By the way, Ying, have you heard about your sister Luoying recently?" "What's the news about sister Luoying?" Bai Ying was a little curious. "Your sister Luoying just broke through to the Vajra realm some time ago. Now, she has become the saintess of the heavenly jade sacred ground." "Really?" Bai Ying's face was filled with excitement. Sister Luo Ying's talent is amazing. Only eldest senior brother Song Zilin can be compared to her. At the mention of Song Zilin, Bai Ying could not help but feel a little disappointed. In her heart, eldest senior brother Song Zilin was omnipotent. However, this time, he had lost to Li Changsheng. It seemed that all the geniuses were insignificant in front of Li Changsheng. Bai Jinghong's face was also a little strange. In fact, he had always hoped that his daughter and Song Zelene would be a couple. However, Bine only saw Song Zelene as her brother. Several attempts to matchmake them had failed. Otherwise, she would not have thought of Li Changsheng. Master, I heard that little junior sister is back. At this moment, a figure barged in with an excited look on his face. Especially when he saw Bai Ying, the admiration in his eyes could not be concealed. He was Bai Jinghong's eldest disciple, Hua Dongye. His martial arts talent was not bad. He was now in the Xiantian realm. Although he could not be compared to Bai Ying, he could be a candidate in some small cultivation sections. Dongye is back. Sit down and eat. By the way, this is Mr. Li. He came back with Bai Ying. Quickly greet Mr. Li. Hello, Mr. Li. Hua Dongye cupped his hands and greeted Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng could clearly feel a trace of hostility in his eyes. It was the first time they met, and he did not offend him. Why was he so hostile towards him? When Li Changsheng saw Bai Ying sitting there, he immediately understood that it was because of jealousy. Mr. Li is a friend of sect leader Song. He is a cultivation expert. Dongye, you should learn from him. Bai Jinghong was also very satisfied with his disciple. However, he had always been opposed to the fact that Hua Dongye had a crush on his daughter. Bai Ying was talented and intelligent. She was destined to be one of the top figures in the Wu-Tang clan. However, no matter how much Hua Dongye cultivated, the gap between him and Bai Ying would only widen. There was a huge gap between the two of them. It was impossible for them to be together. Master, Mr. Li is younger than me. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for me to learn from him. He should be the one learning from me. Hua Dongye did not want to be outdone by Li Changsheng in front of his beloved, so he did not hesitate to interrupt his master. It was very rude. Sure enough, Bai Jinghong's face was gloomy. In front of Li Changsheng, it was not appropriate for him to teach his disciple a lesson. He just snorted coldly as a reminder. However, Hua Dongye did not seem to hear his reminder. He then continued, since Mr. Li has such a strong background, I would like to exchange a few moves with Mr. Li. I wonder if Mr. Li is willing to teach me a thing or two. Hua Dongye's words fell. Bai Jinghong finally could not help but say coldly, Dongye, you're too presumptuous. Mr. Li is a distinguished guest. Master, I just want to exchange a few moves with Mr. Li. It can also be considered as helping you drink. I'm your disciple. Do you think that I'll embarrass you if I'm not as strong as others? Bai Jinghong did not know how to answer Hua Dongye's words. Although when his daughter introduced Li Changsheng, he said that he was Song Zhan's friend and that his magic power was profound. But no matter how profound it was, how profound could it be at such a young age? Could he be as good as Song Zelene? After all, Song Zelene was a genius of a younger generation. There were only a few people like him in the entire cultivation world. It was not a bad idea to let his disciple test Li Changsheng's strength. If he could not even beat his disciple, then he did not deserve to be his son-in-law. Thinking of this, Bai Jinghong instantly made up his mind. He looked at Li Changsheng and said, Mr. Li, my disciple is obsessed with martial arts. Why don't you give him a few pointers? The reason he used the word pointers was just to be polite to Li Changsheng. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng nodded and said, All right, then I'll give him a few pointers with one hand. The atmosphere in the room froze when he said this. No one expected Li Changsheng to be so arrogant. Hua Dongye's eyes were filled with anger. In his opinion, Li Changsheng was insulting him. Bai Jinghong frowned slightly. Li Changsheng had been very humble ever since he entered the room, which made him have a good impression of him. However, what he said just now made his good impression of Li Changsheng disappear. He felt that this was an arrogant person. His disciple was a master of the Khanate stage. Giving pointers with one hand was not only a slap to Hua Dongye's face, but also a slap to his master's face. Mr. Li, you're being too arrogant. My disciple's strength is genuine. If he accidentally won a few moves from you, wouldn't that be taking advantage of him? Chapter 740. Let's do it. Li Changsheng said indifferently. It was obvious that he did not take Huadongye seriously at all. Huadongye's eyes were suddenly filled with anger. Mr. Li, watch carefully. With that, he took a step forward and punched Li Changsheng. After all, he was a Xiantian realm master, and this punch was very powerful. Bai Jinghong could not help stroking his beard and showing a satisfied look. Huadongye was worthy of being his disciple. Although there was a gap in talent between him and his daughter and son, he was definitely outstanding. On the field, the other disciples of Bai Jinghong all had cold smiles on their faces as they stared at Li Changsheng. To them, Li Changsheng was merely an outsider, yet he actually dared to spout such arrogant words. In their hearts, they couldn't wait for Li Changsheng to be taught a lesson. Only Bai Ying kept shaking his head. Without seeing Li Changsheng's strength, he would not understand the horror of Li Changsheng. Huadongye was lightly hit by Li Changsheng and flew out, smashing the glass door of the lobby into pieces and flying into the yard. Everyone in the field suddenly widened their eyes. Bai Jinghong was so shocked that he stood up. He knew the level of his disciple best, but he was so weak in front of Li Changsheng. He's too strong. Even he felt that he had no chance of winning against Li Changsheng. No wonder his daughter said that Mr. Li was a master. The field suddenly became quiet. A few minutes later, Bai Jinghong and others reacted. Mr. Li's strength is outstanding. He's really a hero of the age. At the same time, Huadongye, who was sent flying, turned around and left the house. The meal ended in a strange atmosphere. Li Changsheng planned to stay with Bai Ying at home for 2 or 3 days before leaving. Due to Li Changsheng's display of strength during the meal, Bai Jinghong's attitude towards Li Changsheng became even more fervent. He only felt that Li Changsheng was a perfect match for his daughter. He hinted openly and secretly several times, causing Bai Ying to be extremely embarrassed. "Sister Bai Ying, I heard that you brought back a fiancé." A pleasant voice rang out, and a woman in white appeared in the Bai family's manner. Sister Luo Ying. Bai Ying was also pleasantly surprised. "Quick, let me see what your fiancé looks like." Luo Ying had just returned when she heard Bai Jinghong's story. She and Bai Ying were like sisters, so she was very curious about what kind of man Bai Ying had found. "What fiancé?" "Sister Luo Ying, don't listen to my father's nonsense." Bai Ying's face turned red all the way to his ears. At this time, Li Changsheng happened to pass by. Bai Ying hurriedly greeted him. "Hello, Mr. Li." Li Changsheng nodded slightly at Bai Ying. At the same time, he glanced at Luo Ying, who was standing beside him. He was slightly taller than Bai Ying, and he had a noble and unsullied temperament, like an immortal. After Li Changsheng left, Luo Ying could not help but ask, "Sister Bai Ying, could this be your fiancé that Uncle Bai mentioned?" "What fiancé?" "He is Master's friend, and I am following Master's orders to accompany him down the mountain to gain experience." Bai Ying hurriedly explained. Recently, everyone was talking about her relationship with Li Changsheng. Even she sometimes had an illusion that she and Li Changsheng were really a couple. "That's good." Luo Ying let out a long breath. "This Li Changsheng's temperament is too ordinary. He is not worthy of you." Hearing Luo Ying's words, Bai Ying hurriedly explained, "Mr. Li is just a low-key person. He is very powerful. By the way, Sister Luo, I heard that you have been promoted to the Holy Maiden of Tianxian sect. Congratulations. May I know why you came out this time?" As far as Bai Ying knew, Tianxian sect was full of women. Usually, they were even stricter than the Wu-Tang sect. If there was nothing important, they were not allowed to walk around the secular world. Luo Ying said, "I came out this time to carry out a mission for my sect. It is said that someone recently speculated that a secret realm will be open nearby. All the sects have sent their younger generation to gain experience there. I thought you were also sent by the Wudong sect." "Secret realm?" Bai Ying also showed some interest. When she was in the Wu-Tang sect, she often heard her senior and junior brothers mention that the Wu-Tang sect's Taoist Sanfeng entered a secret realm and obtained the inheritance. That was how he established the Wu-Tang sect. Therefore, Bai Ying was looking forward to the secret realm. "Why, Sister Bai Ying, do you want to explore the secret realm? Then come with me. It just so happens that we sisters haven't seen each other for a long time. We can catch up on old times." Luo Ying said. Bai Ying shook her head. I can't. I am following my master's orders to accompany Mr. Li to travel. Mr. Li wants to challenge the various martial arts clans at the foot of the Wu-Tang Mountain. Challenge the various martial arts clans? How arrogant! Didn't you tell him that many of the martial arts clans at the foot of the Wu-Tang Mountain are overseen by Vajra realm martial experts? Sister Bai Ying, you can't accompany him to fool around. The Wu-Tang sect might be a major sect, and they might not dare to take revenge, but your Bai clan can't afford to offend those martial arts clans. If he wants to court death, he can't implicate you. Actually, Mr. Li is very powerful. Even my master admires him. When Bai Ying thought of her master's attitude towards Li Changsheng, her eyes revealed some reverence. From what I see, you're obviously captivated by that Li Changsheng. Love is in the eye of the beholder. Bai Ying wanted to explain, but the more she tried to explain, the messier it got. In the end, she simply shut her mouth. How about this? I will look for that Mr. Li and tell him that this ruin might be a great opportunity. Entering the ruin is better than going to the various martial arts clans and throwing his life away. Furthermore, the martial arts clan's experts might appear as well. When he sees so many experts, he might be so frightened that his legs will go soft. After Luo Ying finished speaking, she pulled Bai Ying to the courtyard where Li Changsheng was staying. What's the matter? Li Changsheng was lying on the bamboo chair and resting with his eyes closed. When he saw Luo Ying glaring at him with anger, he felt puzzled. This was the first time he met this woman, but why did it seem like he had offended her? I heard that you want to challenge the various martial arts clans. Is that true? Luo Ying questioned with a cold voice. Yes, what's the problem? It doesn't matter if you go to the various martial arts clans to throw your life away, but you can't take my sister Bai Ying with you. This will implicate her. Also, a ruin will open in the next few days. Don't challenge the martial arts clans for now. Come with me to explore the ruin first. The other party's tone was completely commanding. Li Changsheng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Although the other party was a beauty, he wouldn't spoil her. Just as he was about to shake his head and refuse, he heard Bai Ying explain, Mr. Li, that ruin is around the Wu-Tang clan. It is very likely to be left behind from the pre-Qin period. Left behind from the pre-Qin period and around the Wu-Tang clan. Could it be that the ruin of the true martial immortal sect has opened in advance? This time, Li Changsheng swallowed the words of refusal that were about to come out of his mouth. He changed his mind and said, well, then I'll go to the ruin first to take a look. Chapter 741. Hearing Li Changsheng's promise, Bai Ying suddenly became happy. Luo Ying's attitude towards Li Changsheng was still cold. Then we will set off tomorrow with several senior brothers from the Refining Heart sect. After Luo Ying finished speaking, she left the courtyard with Bai Ying. Li Changsheng was thinking whether the Zhenwu relic had opened in advance or not, but if it had opened in advance, the Wudong sect should have heard about it. In the end, he simply stopped thinking about it. No matter what kind of relic it was, he would know when he saw it. The next day, several young people arrived at the Bai family's house. They were the senior brothers from the Refining Heart sect that Luo Ying had mentioned. The leader was a man in his 30s, named Tan Ta. His martial arts strength was similar to Hua Dongyes in the Xiantian realm. However, Li Changsheng could see that his strength should be stronger than Hua Dongyes. When he learned that Luo Ying was going to explore the relic with Bai Ying, Tan Tua was quite happy. Bai Ying was cute, and she was a disciple of the Wudong sect. She came from famous sect, so they did not welcome Li Changsheng. This time, they were going to explore the relic together as a team. They could help each other inside, but Li Changsheng was an outsider. Regardless of his strength, no one knew if he was of the same mind as them. But because of Luo Ying's face, no one stood out to oppose. The journey to the relic was only a few hundred miles, and it would be very fast if they took a taxi. Who would have thought that these guys actually believed in the mortal world refining heart and insisted on walking, saying that it was a training of the mind? Li Changsheng could not help but curse in his heart. Idiots. Along the way, Bai Ying remembered her master Song Zhen's instructions and took good care of Li Changsheng. She served him tea and water and was always at his beck and call. The only thing missing was to warm Li Changsheng's bed. This made Luo Ying, who already disliked Li Changsheng, have a bad impression of Li Changsheng. Even Tan Tuo and other male disciples were very dissatisfied with Li Changsheng. Bai Ying is such a cute and beautiful little girl. How could he bear to let Bai Ying serve him? In fact, Li Changsheng was also somewhat helpless. He had told Bai Ying that it was fine to treat him as a friend, but Bai Ying said that it was difficult to disobey her master's orders. Li Changsheng could only let her be. When they were less than 20 miles away from the ruins, everyone stopped to rest. Li Changsheng sat there with a stalk of dried grass in his mouth, looking at the scenery by the mountain. At this moment, it was close to dusk. The sun was setting in the west, and the horizon was fiery red. Luo Ying walked to Li Changsheng's side and said coldly, "Li Changsheng, although I don't know the relationship between you and the leader of Wudong's sect, Song Zhen, I still want to ask you to correct your attitude. Bai Ying is not your servant. You are not qualified to let her serve you. I didn't ask her to serve me. She did it willingly. What can I do?" Li Changsheng shrugged his shoulders. "Furthermore, how do you know that I am not qualified? I have been preaching and clearing her doubts along the way. Even if she serves me, it shouldn't be a big deal." Preaching and clearing her doubts. Luo Ying couldn't help but snort. "Li Changsheng, why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? You and Bai Ying are about the same age. Bai Ying is a prodigy and is already at the peak stage of the innate realm at such a young age. She will soon break through to the Vajra realm. What are you going to guide her with? How can there be such a thick-skinned person in this world? You don't even blush when you boast. When Bai Ying said that you wanted to challenge the various martial arts clans, I thought you really had the guts. Now, it seems like you were just shooting your mouth and talking nonsense." Luo Ying was getting more and more disgusted with Li Changsheng. She turned and left in a huff. Li Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head. Who did he offend? However, he didn't care about what Luo Ying thought. He was just a casual acquaintance with these people. After resting for a while, everyone ate something and set off again. With their speed, they soon arrived at the 20-mile-long journey. There was a small hill in front of them, which was already surrounded by many people. Other places were sunny and windy, but this place was filled with yellow sand, forming small tornadoes in the sky. It was indeed a peculiar sight. The arrival of Li Changsheng and his group quickly attracted the attention of many people. It is Lady Luo Ying from the Merak cult. She is already at the Vajra realm at such a young age. She has a bright future ahead of her. The one beside her should be the Bai clan's young mistress, Bai Ying. I heard that she is also very talented and is a direct disciple of the Wudong sect. There are also people from the Refining Heart cult. There was a lot of discussion in the crowd. As Luo Ying and her group arrived, many people took the initiative to greet them. They were all from a younger generation of the nearby cultivation sects and had met them before. "Senior brothers, it seems like you're all here to explore the ruins. I wonder if the ruins are open?" Luo Ying might be young, but once she appeared, she immediately formed a circle with her as the leader. In fact, she was the strongest. In addition to the disciples of the major sects, there was a group of people on the other side who formed a camp. Those people were the experts of the various martial arts families at the foot of the Wudong Mountain. "Li, didn't you say that you wanted to challenge the martial arts families one by one? Now at least 1/3 of them are here. Why don't you go and challenge them?" Luo Ying did not forget to taunt Li Changsheng. In her opinion, Li Changsheng was just boasting. He did not have the guts and strength to do so. Li Changsheng looked at the group of people and found that there were a few auras that were not weaker than Luo Ying's. They would be experts in the cultivation world. It was no wonder that the Wudong sect master, Song Zhen, did not interfere when they were establishing forces around the Wudong Mountain. Previously, Song Zhen's cultivation was only at the peak of the innate realm. He could not do anything to these people from the martial arts families. It was only in the past year that he improved by leaps and bounds and reached the profound finger realm. However, these martial arts families were also improving. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you speechless? Luo Ying did not know why, but she just did not like Li Changsheng. The strongest among these people is only at the Vajra realm. They are not worthy of me making a move. When these words came out, Luo Ying's eyes widened. Vajra realm. Li Changsheng actually used but to describe it. Huh. She could not help but laugh out of anger. Will you die if you don't brag? Do you think the Vajra realm is a cabbage on the roadside? A few people from the heart-refining sect also heard the conversation between the two and could not help but shake their heads. Especially the leader, Tan Toa, who had been dissatisfied with Li Changsheng for a long time. He had an idea and raised his voice. Mr. Li, it turns out that these elites from the martial arts families are not worthy of your attention. You actually disdain to make a move. As soon as he said this, the people from the martial arts families immediately cast their gazes over. Tan Tuo's face revealed a sneer. He looked at Li Changsheng with ridicule and thought, let's see what you're going to do. Luo Ying could only glare at Tan Tuo with dissatisfaction. Although she did not like Li Changsheng, she was now in the same camp as Li Changsheng. Tan Tuo's actions were indeed despicable. Just as she was about to say something to smooth things over, she saw Li Changsheng nodding. Their strength is indeed not that great. Only the 3 Vajra realm martial artists are barely passable. These words were extremely arrogant. It was obvious that there was a murderous aura rising from the opposite camp. Chapter 742. You are really courting death. Luo Ying glared at Li Changsheng before she cupped her hands to the martial arts clans and said, fellow Taoists, this friend of mine has always been outspoken. Please don't be calculative with him. Saint Lady Luo Ying, we will give you face. A brawny man said coldly and looked at Li Changsheng. Kid, watch your mouth. If I hear such words again, I will kill you. The other party was murderous and was also a Vajra realm expert. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to fall out with Luo Ying, he would have already made his move. Tan Tuo felt a little regretful when he saw that the commotion had subsided. Luo Ying looked at Li Changsheng coldly. If you talk nonsense again in the future, I will not help you. I hope you know what to do. At this time, the sky was already dark, and the wind above the hill became more frequent. Everyone set up their tents. No one knew when this relic would open, and no one wanted to miss this opportunity. That brawny man with a beard is called Qin Fun. He was born with divine strength, and once tore an enemy in half. Li Changsheng, you are really lucky. Tan Tuo walked to Li Changsheng and said coldly, that's because he didn't meet me. If he met me, he would be the one torn in half. Li Changsheng said casually, but Luo Ying, who happened to pass by, heard it. Her eyes were immediately filled with anger. Li Changsheng, will you die if you stop bragging? Perhaps Mr. Li isn't bragging. Bai Ying also walked over. Although the Vajra realm was already considered powerful in the cultivation world, Bai Ying had personally witnessed how Li Changsheng abused her senior brother, Song Zilin, who had reached the peak of the Vajra realm in the Wudong sect. Sister Bai Ying, you are really bewitched by him. Luo Ying shook her head helplessly. She looked at Li Changsheng with even more hostility. In her heart, Li Changsheng was already a liar who loved to boast and deceive little girls. One night passed. When he woke up the next day, the anomaly above the hill was getting more and more intense. However, the ruins had yet to truly open. Just like that, it was the 3rd day. At noon on this day, the earth suddenly shook violently, and then the entire hill began to collapse. After a full 3 hours, the original location of the small hill collapsed into a huge hole. The hole was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Strong winds howled inside. Clearly, this was the entrance to the ruins. The ruins that everyone had been waiting for a few days had finally opened. I'll go down and take a look. In the camp of the martial arts families, a young man couldn't wait to tie a rope around his waist and then jump into the bottomless hole. Should we go down too? Tan Tuo looked at Luo Ying, seeking her opinion. If there were any treasures in the ruins, there was no doubt that those who entered first would obtain them first. Everyone was afraid that others would snatch them first. This, Luo Ying was hesitating. Only to hear a mournful scream coming from below, everyone's heart skipped a beat. The aristocratic families immediately pulled up the rope. A few minutes later, when the rope was completely pulled out, everyone was dumbfounded. There was no one on the rope, only a few bloodstains. It was obvious that the disciple who had just jumped down had suffered a mishap. What should we do? Everyone looked at each other. Those who couldn't wait to enter were now hesitating. It was obvious that the ruins weren't that safe. That disciple who jumped down earlier might not be the strongest, but he wasn't weak either. If he died, just like that, no one knew what was waiting for them in the cave abode. The unknown was the scariest. I'll go down and take a look. At this moment, a young man stood out. He was one of the 3 Vajra realm martial experts in the aristocratic family's camp. His name was Guoshur. Due to Guoshur's strength, he was naturally bold. He didn't even tie a rope around his waist and directly jumped down. Everyone's heart was in their mouths. With the previous example, no one knew what would happen to the Vajra realm Guoshur. Rumble. There was a sudden muffled sound from inside. Immediately after, a figure flew out quickly. It was Guoshur. Blood was flowing out from his arm. Brother Guo, what is the situation inside? A Vajra realm martial expert asked in a deep voice. His name was Zhan Hu, and he was slightly younger than Guoshur. There is a very powerful array inside. Even a Vajra realm martial expert might perish if he isn't careful. If I didn't react quickly and escape in time, I would have been severely injured even if I didn't die. Hearing Guoshur's words, everyone frowned. If even a Vajra realm martial expert was in danger, no one dared to act rashly. Since there is an array, it seems like we need to break the array. However, we don't even know what array is inside. How are we going to break the array? Not only the aristocratic family's camp, but all the disciples from the various sects were also vexed. Why don't we, a few Vajra realm martial artists, explore together and figure out the operation principle of the array before thinking of a way to break it? Luo Ying suggested. Among the disciples of the sects, apart from Luo Ying, there was another Vajra realm martial artist. There were a total of 5 Vajra realm martial artists on both sides. It is just a mere ruin. Why do we need to go through so much trouble? I will just break it open. While they were discussing, Li Changxing's divine sense had already entered the cave and figured out the situation inside. Therefore, he directly spoke and at the same time walked towards the cave entrance. Huh, just a mere array? How dare you say that? Didn't you see that even a Vajra realm martial artist was injured? Someone snorted and said. Luo Ying also looked at Li Changsheng with dissatisfaction. She felt that Li Changsheng was too outspoken and dared to say anything. The aristocratic family's camp had lost a disciple, and even the Vajra realm expert, Guoshur, was injured. Wasn't Li Changsheng looking down on them by saying such words? Sure enough, Qin Fun and the others cast unfriendly gazes. Kid, since your mouth is so sharp, why don't you jump in and show us? Someone couldn't help but mock. Li Changsheng didn't pay attention to him. He just slowly walked to the entrance of the cave and looked down. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, he jumped and really jumped in. No one expected Li Changsheng to do such a thing. They were all dumbfounded. He actually jumped in? Even Luo Ying was shocked. She hurriedly ran to the edge of the cave and looked down. Unfortunately, she couldn't see anything in the darkness. Only the sound of the wind could be heard. 1 second, 2 seconds. After more than 10 minutes, Li Changsheng still hadn't come up. Tan Tuo couldn't help but say, this fool knew that it was dangerous down there. He was provoked by someone's words and jumped in. This time he is dead. Luo Ying also sighed. Although she didn't like Li Changsheng, she didn't want Li Changsheng to die. On the other side, in the aristocratic family's camp, Qin Fun couldn't help but mock. Today is an eye-opener for me. How did such a stupid person live to this age? Only Bai Ying didn't think so. She interrupted. Mr. Li's attainments in arrays are very high. Maybe he has already broken the array and entered the ruins. Just as her voice fell, it was refuted by everyone. How is that possible? He only knows how to brag. Sister Bai Ying, don't be fooled by him. Yeah, even a powerful array master needs to slowly figure out the mystery of the array and then find a way to break it. How can it be broken by jumping in directly? He must have died inside. Hearing everyone's words, Bai just stared at the dark cave in a daze. She knew that it was useless no matter how she argued, but she believed that Li Changsheng could definitely break the array. She had seen Li Changsheng's attainments in arrays. Chapter 743. Don't bother about that reckless guy. He deserves to die for barging in rashly. Qin Fen said coldly. The 5 of us will enter the cave, first to explore the trajectory of the array. The rest of the weaker ones will wait above. At this point, Qin Fen's face was filled with pride. There were dozens of people here this time, but it was obvious that the 5 of them were the ones who were truly qualified to get the most resources. In the cultivation world, the strong were respected. Those with higher strength should naturally get the bigger share. That array is extremely powerful. Don't act rashly later. You might lose your life if you're not careful. Guoshu instructed everyone. He had already entered once, so he naturally had the most authority to speak. Okay, Daoist Gua, we will listen to your instructions. Luoying nodded and said, Okay, let's start. The 5 Vidra realm cultivators walked to the edge of the cave and jumped in under Guoshu's command. Everyone, pay attention. The array is triggered in front. Don't take the risk later. Throw a few stones over to trigger the array and observe carefully. The others nodded after Guoshu finished speaking. He found a place to borrow strength from in the air and stopped. Then he started to throw stones down. Bang! Guoshu threw the stones carefully and looked down with extreme vigilance. 1 second, 2 seconds. After a full minute, there was no reaction from below. How is this possible? Throw another stone and try again. Guoshu threw 2 stones directly this time, but there was still no reaction like the last time. Could this array be able to sense a person's aura and can only be triggered when someone enters? Hearing Guoshu's words, the others had a strange expression. This array was so powerful. Who would be willing to take the risk? Brother Gua, you have already entered once. You already have experience. Why don't you try again? Hearing their words, Guoshu's face suddenly darkened. He was almost cut in half by the array when he came down. He didn't want to take the risk. Besides, he wasn't the only one exploring the ruins. Why should he do it when there were so many people? Seeing that Guoshu didn't say anything, the others also fell into silence. At this moment, Luoying hesitated and said, Let me do it. Our heavenly jade sacred land's Qinggong is more powerful. The array shouldn't be able to hurt me. With that, Luoying landed slowly. 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, but the array that should have been triggered didn't react at all. Even when Luoying fell to the ground, there was no movement at all. Where's the array? Not to mention others who were puzzled. Even Guoshu was confused. When I came down here, I did trigger the formation. Could it be that the formation had lost its effectiveness over the years and disappeared on its own? Hearing Guoshu's words, everyone present felt that this reason was a little far-fetched. Generally, the formation was powered by nature. How could it be damaged so easily? However, no matter what the reason was, it was naturally a good thing that the formation was gone. The others also landed on the ground one after another. Then he saw a stone door blocking his way. Let's bring everyone down first. Let's go through the trial together. Luoying said. Although the 5 of them were the strongest, the people above them all came from various sects and were inextricably linked to them. Otherwise, with their strength, they could just barge in directly and wouldn't have to wait for the people outside at all. Soon, the people outside also entered the bottom of the cave. Brother Qin, Brother Gua, the 2 of you are truly formidable. You've only been here for a short while, and you've already broken the formation. A disciple of an aristocratic family flattered Qin Fen and the others. Qin Fen's face was a little embarrassed. We didn't break it. When we came down, the formation had already disappeared. It must be Mr. Li who broke it. Bai said excitedly. I knew Mr. Li could break the formation, but you didn't believe it. Who knew that Luoying would be the first to shake her head? Bai, you have been bewitched by that Li guy. With his ability, how could he break the formation? Maybe he had already been cut into pieces by the formation. Then why is there no corpse? Bai questioned. The first one who came down, there was no corpse either, right? Tan Ta, who was next to her, interrupted. Only then did everyone realize that the first one who came down didn't have a corpse either. Even if he was killed by the formation, why wasn't there a trace of blood? Suddenly, the atmosphere became strange. Well, let's not talk about this topic anymore. There's a stone door blocking the road ahead. Let's find a way to push the stone door open and see what kind of opportunity is inside. At the door next to them, a man who was in the Vajra realm, like Luo Ying, looked up and down at the stone door and said, "This should be a hidden mechanism. I once saw it in an ancient book. If you want to push it open, you must break the mechanism. This mechanism is very powerful. Even if you are in the Vajra realm, you'll be in danger of dying if you fall into the mechanism. Senior brother Lu Yu, do you have a way to break it?" Luo Ying asked hurriedly. "This is very difficult. I only saw the records of this formation at that time, but there are more than 900 ways to set up this formation and also more than 900 ways to break it. If we accidentally break it wrong and trigger the mechanism, I'm afraid our lives will be in danger. Then what should we do?" Everyone frowned. Is Taoist Lu Yu referring to the Nine Palace Life and Deathlock? At this time, Guosher suddenly spoke. Lu Yu's eyes lit up. "Brother Gwen knows about this mechanism?" Guosher smiled proudly. "I have dabbled in it before." Although there are more than 900 ways to break the mechanism, we can eliminate them according to the height and width of this stone door and finally determine the way to break the mechanism. As long as everyone gives me some time, I guarantee that I can break it open. Hearing Guosher's words, everyone revealed a delighted expression. Senior Brother Gua is really talented. He even knows the art of mechanisms. Not simple, not simple. Lu Yu also gave a thumbs up. In fact, he had done a lot of research in this area, but he still didn't dare to say that he could break the Nine Palace Life Deathlock. Even Luo Ying looked at Guosher with admiration. Guosher was young, handsome, and knowledgeable. He was simply a perfect man. "I will need about 5 to 6 hours. Don't disturb me. I will calculate slowly." Guosher began to study the door. Bai Ying, who was beside him, muttered, "This array formation must have been broken by Mr. Li. Since Mr. Li isn't here, it means that he has entered the cave. There's only one door in the cave. Could it be that Mr. Li has already broken the mechanism?" Thinking of this, Bai Ying also went forward and began to observe the stone door. "Why, Miss Bai Ying also knows about mechanisms?" Guosher asked doubtfully. "I don't know. I just feel that this mechanism is very likely to have been broken by someone." With that said, before Guosher could react, she placed her hand on the stone door and gently pushed it. With a creak, the stone door was pushed open. "Miss Bai, be careful," Guosher reminded loudly. On the other side, Luo Ying also turned pale with fright. Bai Ying, quickly retreat. Everyone hurriedly retreated, afraid that they would trigger the mechanism and cause casualties. Only 10 seconds passed, and nothing happened. How could this be? Everyone was stunned and looked at Guosher and Lu Yu in confusion. The two of them echoed each other and clearly said that the mechanism was very difficult to break. Lu Yu and Guosher also looked a little embarrassed. When Bai Ying saw that no mechanism was triggered, she finally heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Mr. Li is indeed omnipotent." "What do you mean? Do you mean that this mechanism was broken by that Mr. Li?" Luo Ying was a little uncertain this time. First it was the array, then it was the mechanism. This was indeed strange. Perhaps this mechanism was originally open and has nothing to do with that Mr. Li, Tantua said loudly. He couldn't believe that all of this was done by Li Changsheng. Wasn't that a guy who only knew how to boast? How could he be so capable? Chapter 744. Li Changsheng broke through the formations and mechanisms and entered the cave. He walked all the way inside and found that along the way he could see almost all kinds of mechanisms and formations. Before he walked 20 meters, he had already encountered 3 of them. This didn't look like a cave left behind by a cultivator. No matter how timid a cultivator was, they wouldn't make so many mechanisms. It seemed like they were guarding something inside and didn't want outsiders to barge in. Thinking like this, Li Changsheng casually broke another attack. Finally, he saw a fork in the road ahead. One side had a bright aura and should be a place where people lived. The other side was extremely dark, and there seemed to be endless formations inside. The treasure should be hidden in this dangerous place. Almost instantly, Li Changxing made a judgment. If it was someone else, they would definitely go to the safe place to try their luck. But for Li Changsheng, no matter how powerful the formations here were, they couldn't hurt him. Taking this dangerous path would just cost him a little more effort. Like a hot knife through butter, he rushed to the innermost part. Finally, a door blocked Li Changxing's path. This door wasn't a physical body, but was formed by formations. There were hundreds of formations that formed a super large formation, forming a red door. In the middle of the door, there was a whirlpool that was constantly rotating. If one stared at it for a long time, it seemed like it would suck in one's soul. With such a strong defense, there should be some treasures inside, right? Li Changsheng muttered to himself. Along the way, he broke so many formations, but he didn't get anything. If there was nothing behind this door, then it would be a big loss. Since ancient times, every time a ruin appeared, there would be all kinds of opportunities inside. Of course, it was also possible that there would be nothing in the hundreds of ruins. Li Changsheng had broken into an ancient cultivator's cave before. In the end, he found that the cultivator had cleaned out the house before leaving. Not even a strand of hair was left. Li Changsheng was so angry that he smashed the cave into pieces with a punch. I hope the heavens don't play with me. Li Changsheng stepped in without hesitation. He saw a huge suction force from the whirlpool formation, and his entire body was sucked in. As soon as he entered the formation, a dense attack came. Ordinary experts, even if they were at the finger-profound realm, would most likely lose their lives under such an attack. However, Li Changsheng directly activated his indestructible fiend god body, allowing the attack to land on him without injuring him in the slightest. After entering the cave, he found that his clothes had been cut into countless pieces. He had no choice but to take out another set of clothes from his chinquin bag and put them on. Then he began to look at the scene inside. It was a house about 30 square meters in size. The house was empty except for a colorful stone placed in the innermost part of the house. This stone is interesting. Even if a person was blind, they would be able to tell that this stone was different because it was constantly emitting light. Could it be a divine stone used to refine all kinds of weapons? Li Changxing approached cautiously. Just as he was sizing up the stone, a voice suddenly sounded. "Fellow Taoist, please save me." "Who's talking?" Li Changxing looked around and finally determined that the sound came from the rock. To be precise, it should be under the rock. "What kind of monster are you?" Li Changxing's face revealed a bit of vigilance. There was actually a living person in the pre-Qin Immortal's cave. Even though Li Changsheng was very confident in his own strength, he still had to be careful to avoid capsizing in the gutter. "Fellow Taoist, I am the Heavenly Stone Ancestor. Because I was betrayed by my disciple, I was suppressed in the formation under this rock. As long as you help me break the formation, I will take you as my disciple and teach you a supreme divine technique." The other party's voice was filled with bewitchment. Li Changxing's face revealed a cold smile. If the other party was asking for help normally, it would be fine. However, this voice clearly contained a kind of spell that specialized in bewitching people. This guy continuously bewitched him from the start. He might not be a good person. "Since you are so strong and are suppressed in the formation, I can't save you with my weak strength. I think you should just stay inside," Li Changsheng said as he turned around to leave. "Bastard, if you don't save me, then I'll surely find you on the day I escape, and I'll skin you alive, pull out your tendons, and obliterate your body and soul." The gentle voice under the rock instantly became flustered and exasperated. Moreover, the tone was very vicious. Li Changsheng originally pretended to leave. When he heard the other party's words, he immediately walked back with a smile. "You exposed your true nature, right? If I didn't guess wrong, you must be a great devil who is suppressed in there. You said that you will take me as your disciple if I let you out. I'm afraid that if I really let you out, the first person you will kill will be me. Li Changsheng had lived for tens of thousands of years. What he not experienced? Those devils and ferocious beasts went back on their words and were capricious. The story of the farmer and the snake was not just a story. That voice heard the teasing in Li Changsheng's words and immediately softened. Friend, I will really thank you. I am definitely not an ungrateful person. How about this? If you save me, I will teach you the supreme magic that I have comprehended. I once created a set of super magic that was the only one in the world. It was because this magic was too powerful that my disciple coveted my magic and trapped me in this rock. If you learn my magic, you will be invincible in the world. The other party began to use the bewitching technique again. Unfortunately, Li Changsheng's heart was like a rock, and he was not bewitched at all. However, he was interested in the mystery of this rock. After all, this cave had a history of at least 2,000 years. The person who was suppressed under the rock could live for so long. It was very likely that he was once an earth immortal. When he sent his spiritual sense into the stone, he was immediately blocked and attacked by numerous spirit arrays. Amazing! Even Li Changsheng could not help but exclaim. There were thousands of arrays inside the stone, and each array was very powerful. Moreover, among the thousands of arrays, 2 of them formed a small array, a few small arrays formed a medium array, and the medium array formed a large array. Finally, they formed a super array. This is a F*King array genius. Li Changsheng sighed in his heart. Friend, there are so many arrays in here. How can I save you? Although Li Changsheng had a deep understanding of arrays, it was not easy to break these arrays one by one. He was afraid that he would have to study for several months. In fact, it is very simple. This array has a total of more than 9,000 restrictions. Friend, as long as you break all 9,000 restrictions, you will be able to save me. The voice inside was somewhat anxious. My disciple is a genius in arrays. He must have set up many arrays outside. Since you can break in, it means that you can definitely break his arrays. As long as you break the arrays and let me out, I will teach you my peerless magic. What if I say no? Li Changsheng had a feeling that the being suppressed under the rock was not a good thing. If you don't, I will kill you. The other party's voice suddenly became bitter. Then, a flame from the rock penetrated the layers of restrictions, rushed out, and flew toward Li Changsheng. The flame was only the size of a fingernail, but the moment it appeared, Li Changsheng felt a sense of danger. He raised his hand and took out the heart-wishful sword, and directly hit the flame into a pile of sparks. When the sparks landed on the ground, they actually burned numerous holes in the hard rock. What a powerful flame! Li Changsheng was surprised, but what surprised him more was that the being suppressed under the rock could break through the layers of restrictions and attack him. Chapter 745. You can actually break my fire of the underworld? The existence suppressed under the stone seemed to be even more surprised than Li Changsheng. Fire of the underworld? The other party's words reminded Li Changsheng. Legend had it that there were many powerful flames in the world. For example, everyone could see the true sun fire above the sun, and the most widely spread true sun fire. In addition, there were also Nanming Li fire, Red Lotus hellfire, and other top-level flames. The fire of the underworld was one of them. These top-level flames had different attributes, but they all had one thing in common, which was that they were very terrifying and could not be controlled by ordinary people. Since the other party can use the fire of the underworld, could the divine skill he was talking about be the way to control the fire of the underworld? Li Changsheng's eyes were burning with passion. Although he had dabbled in countless cultivation methods in his life, he had never learned a cultivation method to refine top-level flames. After all, it was a top-level flame. Not to mention the difficulty of creating a cultivation method, it was also extremely difficult to find a top-level flame to cultivate. Take the most common true sun fire as an example. Although people were exposed to the sun every day, who could run to the depths of the sun and take out a ball of flame? They would probably be roasted dry before they could get close. The remaining Red Lotus Hellfire and Nanmingli Fire were even more difficult to find, let alone refine them. Is the divine skill you're talking about the cultivation method to refine the fire of the underworld? Li Changsheng stared at the stone and asked. Yes, yes. The voice inside seemed to know that Li Changsheng was not to be trifled with, so it became more flattering. As long as you save me, I will pass this cultivation method to you. Moreover, I obtained a fire seed of the fire of the underworld by chance. If you save me, I can give you a fire seed of the underworld. It's not impossible for me to save you, but you have to tell me first, how did you attack me when you were trapped in the formation? Li Changsheng had to figure this out. Otherwise, if this guy were to launch a sneak attack on him, what would he do if he were to fail miserably? I've been trapped in this formation for 3,000 years. I've long figured out the rules of this formation. Not only can I attack, but I can also use my divine sense to wander outside. Originally, with my ability, even if no one saved me, I could break out of this formation in another 1,000 years. Now, I only beg you to let me out quickly. I really can't stay here any longer. Hearing the other party's voice, Li Changsheng didn't think that the other party was lying. After all, it was understandable for a person who had been imprisoned for 3,000 years to yearn for freedom. It's fine if you want me to save you, but what if I let you out and you don't teach me your cultivation technique? Therefore, you have to tell me the cultivation method in advance. If I tell you the cultivation method, what if you don't save me? The voice inside sounded a little angry. It seemed that the other party had been trapped inside for too long, causing his mind to be distorted and his mood to fluctuate. You don't have a choice. If you don't tell me the cultivation method, then I'll leave. Anyway, you can't do anything to me. With that, Li Changsheng pretended to turn around. The other party suddenly became anxious. Fine, I'll teach you the cultivation method. With that, a divine sense flew out from inside. Li Changsheng allowed it to enter his mind. Sure enough, he saw an exquisite cultivation method. Just as Li Changsheng was digesting the cultivation method, he suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his mind. There was a tyrannical thought hidden in the cultivation method, madly attacking Li Changsheng's divine sense, wanting to take control of Li Changsheng's body. What a sinister guy! Li Changsheng let out an angry voice. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being too stupid. You dare to let other people's thoughts into a place like your divine sense. Later, I'll seize your body and break the formation myself. As for your body, it'll be just nice to make an avatar for me. The voice shouted strangely, full of pride. Is that so? Li Changsheng suddenly laughed coldly, and then condensed a golden sword from his thoughts in the divine sense C, directly piercing into the thought that had intruded into his divine sense C. What is it? The voice let out a trace of fear and was instantly shattered by the small golden sword. Li Changsheng had lived for tens of thousands of years. How could he not be on guard? The other party used his divine sense to teach him a cultivation method, so he naturally had nothing to be afraid of. The Jinwu God-slaying chapter that he had comprehended in the Wudong sect was specifically used to deal with attacks on the divine sense C. This cultivation method is quite mysterious. In an instant, Li Changsheng had comprehended most of the cultivation method. The voice under the stone was trembling. How is this possible? You actually destroyed my divine sense? Li Changsheng did not pay attention to him. Only after he had completely learned the cultivation method to refine flames did he open his eyes. This cultivation method was indeed powerful. Not only could it refine the 9 underworld fire, it could be said that it was effective on any kind of flame. The person who could create such a cultivation method was not simple. You want to scheme against me? I knew you didn't have good intentions. Now you want me to save you? No way. Li Changsheng coldly snorted and turned to leave. The voice under the stone became anxious again. Friend, I was wrong. I apologize to you. Please don't go. You must save me. I don't want to stay in there any longer. The corner of Li Changsheng's mouth curled up. A person who had been trapped for thousands of years yearned for freedom. This was the biggest weakness of the existence under the stone. Just now, I want to save you out of kindness, but you played tricks with me. How can I believe you now?" The voice under the stone was silent for a few seconds. "Then what do you say? As long as you save me, I can give you a wisp of the 9 underworld fire's origin. When I went into the depths of the 9 underworlds, I almost died to get a wisp. After thousands of years of cultivation, I have only cultivated 9 wisps. You have already obtained the cultivation method. Although it is powerful, if you don't have a top flame to refine it, you won't be able to exert its power. With a wisp of the 9 underworld fire, there's almost no one in this world who can do anything to you. As far as I know, the world has entered the age of chaos, and even powerhouses at the Earth's celestial stage will not appear. So, except for me, you're the most powerful person in the world. Who knows if you have some kind of scheme waiting for me? Send out a wisp of flame for me to see first." Li Changxing's eyes were burning with passion. As the existence under the stones said, although the cultivation method was magical, it was useless without a top flame to refine it. Okay, the existence under the stone seemed to want to show its sincerity. After a while, a wisp of purple flame flew out. Li Changsheng immediately used the refining incantation he had just learned to refine the flame in his hand. After a while, the flame disappeared from his palm and appeared in his dantian. As soon as it appeared, it occupied an area, forming a tripartite confrontation with the golden flood dragon and the green lotus seedling. Good. Li Changsheng had never seen the 9 underworld fire, but he knew the power of the flame clearly after refining it. It was definitely the top flame in the world. Good. But this wisp of flame can only be regarded as an apology for offending me just now. Unless you give me 3 more wisps of flame, I will only agree to save you." Li Changxing said. The existence under the stone suddenly shouted angrily, "Why don't you rob me? I can only cultivate 1 wisp of flame every few hundred years. Giving you 1 wisp is already good enough. Don't be greedy. If you don't give it to me, I will never save you. Anyway, I have the cultivation method and the flame. It doesn't matter whether I save you or not. Think carefully." Li Changsheng had already defeated the existence. Sure enough, after a few seconds of silence, 3 more wisps of flame flew out. Chapter 746. Li Changxing's face revealed a sinister smile, and then he refined the 3 flames. In his dantian, the 4 flames merged into one, and Li Changxing suddenly felt a scorching aura in his entire body. "Can you save me now?" The voice under the stone was somewhat expectant. "Okay, then I'll help you break the restriction." Li Changsheng first used his divine sense to invade the densely packed array formations and figured out the operating rules of the array formations. He immediately understood that it would take a long time to unravel these array formations, but if he wanted to break them directly, it would be much easier. These arrays seemed to be aimed at the existence inside. It was extremely difficult to break them from the inside, but it was much easier to break them from the outside. No wonder the existence under the stone felt that Li Changsheng could save him. But would Li Changsheng really save him? Li Changxing's divine sense condensed into a small golden sword between his eyebrows, and it rushed into the array like a fish. After passing through the layers of arrays, he saw a stone room about 10 square meters in size inside the array. Inside, an old man with disheveled hair was sitting there, looking at the sky with a face full of expectation. The old man's eyes were somewhat excited and ferocious. This guy doesn't look like a good person. Li Changsheng took back the small golden sword, then took out the ardent dragon spear and directly stabbed at the array. Rumble! The power of the ardent dragon spear directly passed through the path of the array, just in time to avoid all kinds of obstacles, rushed into the stone room, and hit the old man. An exasperated voice suddenly came from under the stone. "Kid, what's wrong with you? I told you to break the array. Why did you attack me?" Li Changxing's mouth revealed a trace of a sneer. The old man had used 3,000 years to find the pattern of the formation, which allowed him to attack the people outside. However, with Li Changxing's attainments in creation, it only took him a few minutes to figure out the pattern of the formation. allowing him to attack inside. I am indeed saving you. I don't know why I didn't break the array, but hit you instead, Li Changsheng said innocently. Then, he continued to brandish the ardent dragon spear without hesitation. Inside the array, the old man was so angry that he cried out under the attack of the fierce dragon spear. He roared, "Brat, you're clearly doing this on purpose. I'm going to kill you." As he spoke, more wisps of flames flew out to attack Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng had already learned how to refine flames. Although these flames were not the original 9 Underworld's flame seed, they could still increase the power of the 9 Underworld's flame. He grabbed all of them and refined them into his body. Tian's old ancestor attacked several times and found that although the flames were formidable, they were no longer a threat to Li Changsheng. On the contrary, they would only strengthen Li Changsheng's strength. Therefore, he no longer attacked and just continued to resist Li Changsheng's ardent dragon spear inside the array formation. Tian's old ancestor was an expert at the Earth Celestial stage when he was at his peak. Unfortunately, his strength had been exhausted after thousands of years. In addition, Li Changsheng was now a half step to the Earth Celestial stage. His real combat strength was not inferior to an Earth Celestial. After more than 10 minutes, the old man was extremely weak after being beaten by Li Changsheng. He finally began to beg for mercy. "Friend, please don't hit me. If you continue to hit me, I will really die. I don't expect you to save me. I just want you to stop. I don't want to die." Tian's old ancestor used to be a ruthless person. However, now that he was trapped in the array formation, he could only be attacked passively. Li Changsheng was abnormally powerful. He was obviously not at the Earth Celestial stage, but he could exert the power of an Earth Celestial stage attack. Tian's old ancestor was really afraid. "Okay, if you want me to stop, give me the remaining 5 wisps of flames." Li Changsheng completely shed all pretense of cordiality. "No, these flame seeds are my life-saving items. I can't give them all to you. Since you don't want to give them to me, don't blame me for being impolite." Li Changsheng continued to wave the scorching dragon spear. Tian's old ancestor had learned his lesson this time. He didn't confront Li Changsheng directly. Instead, he kept dodging in the stone room. Because the scorching dragon spear had to go through the gaps in the array formation, he couldn't change his position at any time. After attacking more than 10 times, Tian's old ancestor's complacent voice suddenly came from inside. "Haha, boy, you still want to peep at my flames. When I get out, the first thing I will do is burn you to ashes. Now, you can't do anything to me, right? It's too early for you to be proud." Li Changsheng stopped attacking. Then, he condensed a small sword with his mind sense and penetrated the array formation. To attack with the scorching dragon spear, one had to look for the air attack of the array formation. Although the mind sense seemed to have a shape, it was actually invisible and could directly penetrate the array formation. It just so happens that I have learned the Zhenwu God Slaying chapter. I haven't had a chance to test it yet. I will use you to practice. The small golden sword rushed directly into the stone room and suddenly pierced between the old man's eyebrows. Ah! A mournful scream came from inside. Mind sense attacks were originally impossible to guard against, especially when the old man was extremely weak. This attack caused him to suffer heavy injuries. Again, one after another, the small golden sword pierced into the array formation. That old man couldn't avoid it. He finally started to beg for mercy again. "Friend, I was wrong. I beg you to let me go. I can't give you all the seeds of the 9 Underworld flame, but I can give you another strand." "No, I want 4 strands." Li Changsheng coldly refused. "2 strands. I can't give you more." The other party insisted. "Then hand over 3 strands. I will spare your life. If you don't agree, I will use my mind sense attack and completely obliterate you." Below the stone, Tian's old ancestor fell into silence. Then, he clenched his teeth, and 3 more strands of flames flew out. Li Changsheng refined the 3 strands of flames. Suddenly, He felt that the fire cultivation method of refining the flame seed had a qualitative improvement. It seems that the more flames this cultivation method refines, the more powerful it is. After obtaining a total of 7 strands of flames, Li Changsheng was satisfied. Seeing that Li Changsheng no longer launched an attack, Tianshi, old ancestor, let out a long sigh of relief. I still have something to ask you. You better answer honestly. Li Changsheng didn't have the intention to leave directly. Instead, he asked, Go ahead. Tianshi, old ancestor inside, had been completely tortured by Li Changsheng. This flame refining cultivation method is so wonderful. Did you really create it? Actually, I didn't create it. I obtained a fragment from a relic and completed it. The voice inside had a hint of decadence. So it's like this. Then, do you know the traces of other flames besides the 9 underworld flame? Of course I know. The sun true flame is on the sun star. You can refine it. Tianshi, old ancestor's voice had a hint of ridicule. In the next second, Li Changsheng directly sent in a mind-sense attack, beating the old man until he screamed again and again. I asked you a question. You better answer honestly. Yes, yes. The old man's voice had a hint of pleading. I don't know. I found a 9 underworld flame by chance. Since you have lived for 3,000 years, do you know why the spirit Qi in this world has become so exhausted? This was the biggest doubt that troubled Li Changsheng. Although he had lived for more than 10,000 years, at least half of his time was spent in deep sleep. Moreover, in his memory, he didn't know what had happened in this world. Actually, I'm not too sure. I once heard from a good friend that a world has its own luck. There are ups and downs. In the past, this world was at the peak of its luck, so experts emerged one after another. Now that it has entered the age of chaos, it belongs to the low point of the world's luck. But according to my calculations, the low point has passed. After that, the world's spirit Qi will slowly rise and more experts will emerge. It turned out to be like this. No wonder Song Zhen and the others have been constantly improving recently. Li Changsheng thought in his heart. Well, then let's talk about the disciple who suppressed you in the array. Li Changsheng was very interested in the disciple of Tianshi ancestor. My disciple is simply a bastard. I taught him a cultivation method, but he trapped me in the array while I was cultivating in seclusion. With your temperament, I think you don't have much sincerity for your disciple. Li Changsheng's words made Tianshi ancestor fall into silence. After a long time, he snorted coldly. So what? Although I used him as an experiment when I completed the cultivation method, didn't he also gain a lot of benefits? Even the heavens can't tolerate him treating his master like this. It turned out to be like this. Li Changsheng shook his head. No wonder his disciple was so ruthless to him. This guy is a bastard. Then where did your disciple go? I don't know. He should have left this world. After all, I was in the last batch of people who had the chance to break through to the Earth Immortal stage. After that, because of the suppression of the world's rules, it was impossible for the existence of the Earth Immortal stage to exist. It turned out to be like this. I know what I need to know. Now it's time to send you on your way. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he activated the Ardent Dragon Spear and directly shot at the stone. There were more than 9,000 restrictive spells inside. With the power of the spear, all of them were broken. The old man who was sitting in the stone room suddenly raised his head, his face full of joy. Ha! Boy, you must have eaten lard to have broken the restrictive spells. See if I don't kill you or not. After saying that, he immediately rushed out. Really? Do you think I'm that stupid? Since I dare to break the restrictive spells, I have the confidence to kill you. Li Changsheng sneered. I am an expert of the Earth Immortal stage. Although my body is very weak, you haven't become an Earth Immortal. How do you know how powerful an Earth Immortal is? Go to hell. Tianshi ancestor's hair was flying. As soon as he got out, there was a large amount of spiritual Qi gathering in his body. His aura was rising rapidly every second. His eyes were cruel and bloodthirsty, but more of it was excitement. He had been abused by Li Changsheng, a junior. He had been sullen for a long time. Now, he could finally release it. Chapter 747. His aura was getting stronger and stronger. Li Changsheng suddenly raised his palm and struck out. The powerful palm force rotated in the air and rushed toward Ancestor Stone Ancestor's chest. However, when Li Changsheng's attack was about to reach him, Ancestor Tianshi raised his palm and slammed it down, blocking Li Changsheng's attack. Humph! I've said that if you don't enter the Earth's celestial realm, you will always be a non-entity. Now, do you know the gap between us? Ancestor Stone Ancestor said with a cold smile. Back then, he had lost a few wisps of flame and felt a little heartache. But now, he didn't care at all. As long as he could get his freedom and get rid of this hateful guy, the flame would eventually be his. At this moment, Ancestor Stone Ancestor's aura was getting stronger and stronger. Spiritual chi from all directions kept converging on his body. Since I dare to let you out, do you really think I don't have a way to deal with you? Li Changsheng said flatly. He allowed Ancestor Stone Ancestor to accumulate his strength instead of taking the opportunity to interrupt him. Boy, I don't know where your confidence comes from, but you've missed the best opportunity to kill me. Now, let me send you on your way. Ancestor Stone Ancestor's aura rose and streaks of spiritual chi integrated into his body. As he raised his palm, the purple flame turned into a long saber and slashed toward Li Changsheng. He had only taught Li Changsheng the way to refine the flame. Although that was the core of the cultivation method, there were still many moves that used the flame in order to exert the power of the flame. The purple long saber slashed down with terrifying power. It was worthy of being an expert in the Earth's celestial realm. In response, Li Changsheng didn't even use the scorching dragon spear. He clenched his fist and punched out. Boom! The moment the purple long saber touched Li Changsheng's fist, it exploded and turned into flying sparks. Then, a huge fist broke through all kinds of obstacles and hit Ancestor Stone Ancestor's chest. Bang! There was a silent sound. Heavenstone Old Ancestor's body flew out and hit the wall behind him, creating a hole in the wall. How could this be? Tianshi Ancestor's face was filled with disbelief. He was at the Earth celestial stage. Although he had been trapped for 1,000 years and his spiritual energy had been depleted, he had only recovered 1/10 of his strength. However, as an Earth immortal, he had the word immortal in his name. That was the biggest difference between him and a mortal. There was a huge gap between immortals and mortals. There was a fundamental difference between immortals and mortals. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a saying. In his opinion, even 1/10 of his strength was enough to crush any powerhouse below the Earth's celestial stage. But the reality wasn't like this. Inside the cave, Li Changsheng looked at Heavenstone Ancestor quietly and said, "It wasn't easy for you to live for so many years. You even taught me how to refine flames. Tell me, do you have any last words? If I can do it, I will do my best to help you." "Humph, brat, I was just careless just now. Do you really think you can kill me?" Tianshi Old Ancestor crawled out from the hole in the wall. His eyes were filled with killing intent. At that time, he was trapped in the array formation and abused by Li Changsheng. Now that he was out of the array formation, he was beaten up by Li Changsheng. This made him extremely angry. "It seems that you still don't understand the situation." Li Changsheng shook his head and raised his palm. It turned into a giant palm print and slapped down. Bang! In the face of Li Changsheng's giant palm print, Tianshi Old Ancestor didn't dare to underestimate it this time. He waved his hands, and the flames turned into a long spear and pierced the palm print. Rumble! The flames were scattered once again, and a handprint landed on Heavenstone Ancestor's body. Bang, 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 bang. A series of sonic booms were heard. Tianshi Old Ancestor was humiliated and flew out again. He smashed into the entrance of the cave. A large piece of stone collapsed. The stone house, which was originally more than 30 square meters, was expanded by more than 10 square meters. I understand now. You have comprehended how to refine flames. I can't hurt you by using flames as an attack. Tian's old ancestor thought of the two attacks and finally figured out. In that case, I will use other means to deal with you. Although the flame attack is my strongest strength, other means can also crush you. This is the advantage of the Earth Immortal stage. Tian's old ancestor felt that he understood the key to his two defeats. This time, he rushed toward Li Changsheng directly. He wanted to use some physical strength to crush Li Changsheng. The Earth Immortal stage was a kind of life evolution. The whole body transformed to another level of life. Logically speaking, the physical body of the Earth Immortal stage was 100 times stronger than that of an ordinary cultivator. Therefore, Tian's old ancestor's idea wasn't wrong. However, he didn't notice the sarcasm in Li Changsheng's eyes. The indestructible body of celestial demons had been strengthened by 99 lifetimes. Even if the legendary celestial immortal came, Li Changsheng didn't think that his physical strength would lose, let alone an Earth Immortal. Amidst a series of explosions, Tian's ancestor finally arrived in front of Li Changsheng. His eyes were filled with joy. However, Li Changsheng quickly taught him a lesson. Rumble. Li Changsheng punched out and collided with Tian's old ancestor's palm. Then, Tian's old ancestor's arm was twisted. His body was penetrated by Li Changsheng's powerful strength and flew backward like a cannonball. This time, a human-shaped hole was created in the hard stone wall. He flew for more than 10 meters before stopping. Even Tian's old ancestor's Earth Immortal stage body was smashed into pieces by this punch. He kept vomiting blood. How was this possible? Tian's old ancestor's eyes were filled with shock. He couldn't understand how he, an Earth Immortal stage body, couldn't defeat a finger-profound realm cultivator. This was unimaginable. At this time, Li Changsheng walked step by step to the hole and looked at Tian's old ancestor, who was in a terrible state. He raised his hand, and the heart-wishful sword flew out and rushed toward Tian's old ancestor, who was in the hole. Within a few minutes, he stabbed more than 100 times. There were countless holes in Tian's old ancestor's body. Li Changsheng stomped on the ground, and Tian's old ancestor was sent flying out of the hole. When he landed on the ground, he was on the verge of death. He crawled there like a dead dog, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. What are your last words? You can say them now. Li Changsheng said coldly. I don't want to die. Please don't kill me. Tian's old ancestor said with difficulty. All right, hand over the last 2 flames of the underworld in your body, and I might consider sparing your life. Okay. Tian's old ancestor stretched out his hand, and the 2 flames flew out. Li Changsheng took them and refined them into his body. Can you let me go now? Tian's ancestor looked at Li Changsheng expectantly. With his Earth Immortal body, even though he was severely injured now, as long as he was let go, he would be able to recover to his peak in less than half a year. All right, you can go, Li Changsheng said calmly. Thank you for not killing me. Tian's old ancestor struggled to get up and turned to walk out. However, the moment he turned around, a trace of undetectable hatred flashed in his eyes. Human, Li Changsheng sighed. Tian's old ancestor suddenly felt a great sense of danger. Then he saw a small golden sword rushing into his body. Tian's ancestor's face suddenly revealed a ferocious expression. After a few seconds, his eyes became hollow, and then he fell to the ground. Li Changsheng had used the true martial god-slaying chapter to kill his soul. I gave you one last chance. You didn't cherish it. You can't blame me. Li Changsheng shook his head and kept Tian's old ancestor's body in his cosmos bag. Although this Earth Immortal stage body was full of holes, as long as it was repaired, he could still beat a profound finger realm expert. Moreover, studying the body structure of an Earth Immortal stage expert would be beneficial for Li Changsheng's breakthrough. Chapter 748. Li Changsheng had obtained a total of 9 wisps of fire of the underworld. It could be said that he had gained a lot. He turned and left the stone room directly. He also knew that Tian's ancestor was the biggest opportunity in this ruin. Of course, only Li Changxing's strength could obtain such a resource. If it were anyone else who came in, they would have been burned to death by the old man's flame. After all, in this world, only Li Changxing could compete with an Earth Immortal Realm expert. Many people gathered outside the cave residence. They were at a loss for what to do about the array at the door. We have searched everywhere in this cave residence. There is nothing. I am afraid that the real opportunity is behind this array. Guo Shi, as the most knowledgeable person present, spoke his conclusion. It was unanimously affirmed by the people next to him. I think Brother Guo is right. It's just that this array looks very complicated. We don't dare to break in easily. Zhan Hu, who was next to him, said with a frown. The others, Luo Ying, Lu Yu, and the others were also at a loss. Just by looking at the aura of this array, they knew that it was very powerful. No one dared to act rashly. Everyone present was smart. They knew that the opportunity was important, but if they were careless and lost their lives, then everything would be in vain. Let me do the research. Guo Shi was about to step forward. Suddenly, there was a distortion in the vortex. Then, a figure walked out. Who is it? Li Changxing's appearance shocked everyone present. They retreated vigilantly. When they saw Li Changxing's face clearly, everyone was dumbfounded. You are still alive? Luo Ying blurted out. Shouldn't I be alive? Li Changxing was speechless at Luo Ying's words. I knew that Mr. Li would be fine, Buying said excitedly. Although she had always believed in Li Changxing's strength and that there would be no danger, she didn't see Li Changxing's figure along the way. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't worried. It seems that this kid is lucky. When he came down, the array had disappeared, so he could walk to the innermost part. Qin Fan said. Indeed, they had not encountered a single formation along the way. In their opinion, it was clear that the formations here had been here for too long and had stopped operating. As for the possibility that Li Changxing had broken all the formations, they directly ruled it out. If even a brat like you can enter, it means that this formation is nothing special. At this moment, Tan Tuo stepped forward and pushed Li Changxing away before reaching out to touch the whirlpool. This formation will take your life. Li Changxing reminded coldly. Who are you trying to scare? Tan Tuo didn't care at all. He reached his arm in, and then a strong suction force sucked him in. Be careful. Luo Ying, who was closest to him, quickly grabbed his ankle and pulled him out. However, everyone saw that in the blink of an eye, Tan Tuo's entire arm was cut off. Tan Tuo let out a miserable shriek. The surrounding people all gasped. Who said that this formation was fake? Could a fake formation cut off a person's arm? At the same time, the way they looked at Li Changxing had completely changed. Could it be that this kid is actually an array genius? Did he break all the formations along the way? At this moment, Qin Fan, Guo Shi, and the others took a step forward and surrounded Li Changxing in the middle, as if their hearts were in sync. Even Lu Yu, who was in the same camp as Li Changxing, took a step forward. What are you doing? Luo Ying frowned. Although she hated Li Changxing, she still had a sense of justice. Brotherly, we are all here to explore the ruins together. Since you have a way to get behind this formation, why don't you break the formation and let us in to take a look? Guo Shi said politely, but looking at their posture, it was obvious that if Li Changxing refused, he would immediately be besieged by them. Brat, if you break the formation, I'll forgive you for offending me back then. Qin Fan, whose face was full of whiskers, said coldly. Although Zhan Hu and Lu Yu didn't speak, they clearly had the same meaning. Since they had entered the ruins, it was naturally impossible for them to return empty-handed. Li Changxing was obviously the only person who could break the formation. Li Changxing, everyone is together. Since you can break the formation, let us see what it looks like inside. This way, everyone can give up. Luo Ying thought for a moment and persuaded. She knew that if Li Changxing didn't agree, he wouldn't be able to walk out of this cave house today. Saying this was also for Li Changxing's sake. Moreover, she was really curious about what was inside. All right, Li Changxing nodded. He had already obtained all the items inside, and breaking the array formation was something he could do with a wave of his hand. Seeing Li Chongqing agree, the faces of the people present eased a little. Luoying also breathed a sigh of relief. "Do you need us to cooperate with you?" Luoying asked. Li Chongqing shook his head. Then, he walked to the formation and punched. Rumble! It was a loud noise. Then, the door formed by the dense formation disappeared before everyone's eyes. The scene of the stone room appeared before everyone's eyes. Seeing the messy stone room, everyone frowned. Luoying said, "Why does it seem like there was a big battle inside? That stone is a little strange." Guosher was proficient in formations. He could tell at a glance that the stone was extraordinary. When they walked over, they saw the stone room where Heavenstone Ancestor was imprisoned. "There's a small secret room inside. Let's go down and take a look." As they spoke, a few people jumped down one after another. However, it didn't take long for them to climb up with an ugly expression. There was nothing in the stone room. This meant that they had made a wasted trip. "I have broken the door for you. Since you have seen everything, I should leave." After Li Chongqing finished speaking, he waved to Bai Ying and turned to leave. "Wait a minute." At this moment, Qin Fan suddenly took a step forward and blocked Li Chongqing's path. It is impossible for there to be no opportunity in such a big ruin. The small secret room under the stone is empty. Someone must have taken away the item. "Li, you entered the secret room before us. What did you get?" Hearing Qin Fan's words, everyone's gaze focused on Li Chongqing with greed and hostility. Indeed, no one got it. Li Chongqing was the one who was most likely to get it. At this moment, he became the target of public criticism. "I did get something, but it has nothing to do with you." Li Chongqing didn't have any intention to deny it. Luoying, who was at the side, sighed. She knew that things were going to be bad. Everyone was just suspicious before, but now they were sure. With human greed, how could they let him go? Sure enough, Qin Fan sneered. Everyone entered the cave together. Naturally, everyone has a share of the treasures. You should take out what you got and share it with everyone. This is only fair. Qin Fan's words received the support of most of the people present, especially Guosher, Zhan Hu, Lu Yu, and a few Vajra realm martial experts. They surrounded Li Chongqing once again. They had the intention to make a move immediately if there was any disagreement. Li Chongqing's face suddenly turned gloomy, snatching food from the tiger's mouth. It had always been Li Chongqing who snatched other people's things. These people dared to snatch from him. Weren't they courting death? Chapter 749. The opportunity in the ruins belongs to those who are fated. Why? You guys didn't get the opportunity and still want to snatch it? Li Chongqing's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. These people didn't look at the almanac when they went out and provoked him. They were clearly courting death. So what if we snatched it? The law of nature dictates that the strong are supreme. Although the opportunity is good, if you don't have enough strength to protect it, you will only die because of it. Qin Fan, who had a beard on his face, said coldly. Li Chongqing might have broken countless array mechanisms, but this only showed that he was a genius in array. It didn't mean that he was powerful. The others remained silent as they looked at Li Chongqing with pity. Obviously, they believed that Qin Fan alone was enough to deal with him. "Qin Fan, aren't you guys a bit too much?" Luoying couldn't help but say. Although she didn't like Li Chongqing along the way, it seemed that Qin Fan's behavior was even more despicable. Moreover, Li Chongqing wasn't bragging. He had indeed broken the array. This made Luoying's impression of Li Chongqing change greatly. At this moment, she couldn't help but speak up for him. "Sister Luoying, you're the saintess of Tianxian sect. I gave you face last time when this kid provoked me. But this time, I hope you don't interfere to avoid hurting our friendship." Qin Fan's tone was very threatening. A trace of displeasure flashed on Luoying's face. She wanted to say something, but when she saw the other two Vajra realm experts, who were in the same camp as Qin Fan, they were obviously on Qin Fan's side. Even Lu Yu, who was originally on the same side as Luoying, remained silent at this moment. Obviously, if Luo Ying insisted on helping Li Changsheng, her allies would immediately turn against her. Since ancient times, wealth moved people's hearts. This opportunity was a temptation to cultivators. The temptation was too great. Li Changsheng, why don't you take out the opportunity you got and share it with everyone? Luo Ying sighed and said helplessly. She was doing this for the sake of Li Changsheng. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring would arouse the envy of others. If Li Changsheng did not take the initiative to hand it over and allowed these people to make a move, he would probably end up dying. Who knew that Li Changsheng was indifferent to Luo Ying's words? He just looked at Qin Fun and the others with a sneer. According to what you said, whoever has the bigger fist is right. You can understand it that way. Qin Fun had a grin on his face, as if Li Changsheng was already in his grasp. Since that's the case, I'd like to talk to you about my reasoning. Li Changsheng finished his words. Qin Fun still had a look of disdain on his face. However, all they saw was Li Changsheng suddenly raise his palm and strike at Qin Fun. The surrounding people's eyes widened in surprise. In their eyes, Li Changsheng was a turtle in a jar, and now he actually dared to take the initiative to attack. You really don't know what death is. Qin Fun snorted coldly and clenched his fist, intending to give Li Changsheng an unforgettable lesson. However, in the next moment, without waiting for him to make a move, Li Changsheng's palm had already slapped his face. Pa! A crisp sound rang. Qin Fun's cheeks were deformed in an instant, and then his whole body was sent flying by the palm. His head was upside down, and he smashed directly on the ground. Silence. There was a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes widened, feeling incredulous. Not only did Li Changsheng take the initiative to attack, but he also sent Qin Fun flying with a palm. Is there a mistake? Everyone felt that their heads couldn't wrap around it. Is this guy so strong? Even Luo Ying's heart was ruthless. She was fiercely shocked. I'm going to kill you. At this time, Qin Fun, who was sent flying by Li Changsheng, got up from the ground with a face of humiliation. His eyes flashed with a crazy, killing intent. Being sent flying by a palm in front of so many people, especially at this moment, his cheeks were badly mutilated by Li Changsheng. He didn't know how many teeth he had lost. It was simply a great shame and humiliation. Go to hell. Qin Fun's hair fluttered in the wind as his huge palm suddenly pounced on Li Changsheng, bringing with it a biting cold wind. You don't know what death is. Li Changsheng directly raised his hand, grabbed the opponent's wrist, and pulled hard, smashing Qin Fun's body on the ground. Then, he raised his foot and kicked Qin Fun's head. Bang, 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 bang. It was like a rogue fighting on the street, but Qin Fun didn't have the slightest strength to fight back in this seemingly simple move. A few minutes later, Li Changsheng stopped his big foot. Qin Fun's head was swollen like a pig's head. Go to hell. Qin Fun's voice was a bit unclear, and the aura on his body surged crazily. Under extreme humiliation, he actually wanted to self-destruct his body and perish together with Li Changsheng. Not good. Everyone's face turned pale with fright. They were in this small range. If Qin Fun self-destructed, not only Li Changsheng, but everyone would be buried with him. But it was too late to hide. Many people's faces were already filled with despair. It's over. This time, Qin Fun killed us. However, in the next moment, Li Changsheng raised his foot again. He kicked fiercely. Bang! A kick. The aura that just rose from Qin Fun's body was scattered by the kick. Bang! Another kick. Qin Fun's arm was twisted. Bang, 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 bang. Thighs, chest, head. After Li Changsheng kicked like a storm, Qin Fun, a Vajra realm expert, had countless bones broken. He lay there motionless like a dead dog. Only his eyes were moving with horror. Blood overflowed from his nose every time he breathed. It was extremely miserable. Hiss! Everyone in the field took a breath of cold air. This is too ruthless. One by one, they looked at Li Changsheng with fear in their eyes. My friend, although Qin Fun is wrong, aren't you a bit too ruthless? Guosher stood up and said carefully. The relationship between his martial arts family and Qin Fun's family was very good. In private, he also regarded Qin Fun as an elder brother. So at this moment, even if he was afraid of Li Changsheng, he had to bite the bullet and stand up. In his opinion, his tone was polite enough. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng took a step forward and rushed him. He grabbed his neck and pushed him directly to the wall behind him. Bang! The entire cave shook violently. When Qin Fun took the treasure, "Why didn't I see you uphold justice for me? You think I'm ruthless, right? Then I'll show you how ruthless I am." As he spoke, he raised his other palm and slapped it on Guo Shi's cheek. Pa 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 pa. Dozens of slaps were thrown. Guo Shi's head was swollen like a pig's head. Finally, he raised his fist and punched Guo Shi's nose. Guo Shi's cheek was completely deformed. Under the power of this punch, his head directly smashed a hole in the stone wall behind him and half of it sank in. Only then did Li Changsheng release his grip. Then, Guo Shi's body fell to the ground softly. What? Who else wants me to take out the treasure? Li Changsheng's gaze swept across everyone present. Everyone lowered their heads the moment they met his gaze, not daring to look at him directly. Too cruel, too ruthless, too terrifying. Now, Li Changsheng was a big demon in everyone's eyes. A bunch of trash. Li Changsheng snorted disdainfully, then turned and walked outside. Although everyone in the field felt ashamed and angry, no one dared to stand up and stop him. Qin Fun and Guo Shi were both strong Vajra realm experts, but in the hands of Li Changsheng, they were like soft mud that could be pinched at will. Who dared to provoke Li Changsheng? Who dared? Chapter 750. I didn't expect him to be so powerful. Luo Ying looked at Li Changsheng's back view as he left. Her emotions were extremely complicated. She recalled what Li Changsheng said along the way. She thought that Li Changsheng was bragging, but it seemed like he was telling the truth. The Vajra realm was nothing in his eyes. Luo Ying had just broken through to the Vajra realm and was considered a prodigy among the younger generation of the cultivation world. She had been proud of it for a long time, but when she saw the scene just now, she realized that she was just a frog at the bottom of a well. Li Changsheng looked about the same age as her, but a Vajra realm martial expert was like a doll in his hands. The other two Vajra realm martial experts, Lu Yu and Zhan Hu, had lingering fears. At the same time, they felt fortunate that they didn't make a move on Li Changsheng. Otherwise, they would be as unlucky as Guo Shi and Zhan Hu. I told you that Mr. Li is very powerful, but you didn't believe me. Bai Ying hurriedly chased after Li Changsheng and said, "Mr. Li, wait for me." After walking out of the cave, Li Changsheng was in a good mood. This exploration of the ruins wasn't in vain. "Mr. Li, are we going to challenge the various martial arts aristocratic families next?" Bai Ying asked excitedly. "No need." Li Changsheng shook his head. He had just obtained the flame refinement technique, and he wanted to go back and study it. "Let's go back to Wudong Mountain." "Are we going back just like this?" Bai Ying was a little regretful. "Why don't I go back to Wudong Mountain alone first? You can stay at home for a few more days." Li Changsheng could tell that Bai Ying was like a little bird that had escaped from its cage and hadn't enjoyed the freedom of the outside world. "I don't think so." Bai Ying hurriedly shook his head. "If my master knew that I was behaving atrociously outside and refused to go back, he would definitely punish me." "Mr. Li, wait a minute." At this moment, even Luo Ying came out and walked to Li Changsheng. She bowed deeply and said, "Mr. Li, I apologize for my disrespect to you along the way." "I'm fine." Li Changsheng wasn't narrow-minded enough to argue with Luo Ying. Moreover, this Luo Ying was able to stand up at the critical moment, which meant that she wasn't a bad person. "Then let's part ways here." After parting ways, Li Changsheng brought Bai Ying back to Wudong Mountain. As soon as he returned, he went to his courtyard to cultivate in seclusion. Originally, Song Zhen wanted his son, Song Zilin, to apologize to Li Changsheng and resolve the grudge between them. Maybe he could get some pointers from Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng said that he would not see anyone, so he did not want to disturb him. Before going into seclusion, Li Changsheng passed on a set of cultivation techniques to Bai Ying as compensation for accompanying him down the mountain. The Heavenstone Old Ancestor only taught Li Changsheng the core of the fire cultivation technique. As for how to use it, he didn't teach Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng went into seclusion every day to study this cultivation technique and continued to experiment. Soon, 2 months passed in a flash. On this day, Li Changsheng pushed open the courtyard door and walked out of his courtyard. Because it was time for the Jinwu ruins to open, Bai Ying was anxiously walking in circles outside the door. When she saw Li Changsheng come out, her face immediately lit up. "Mr. Li, you finally came out. The sect leader asked me to wait for you here. Everyone is ready to set off." "Everyone? Is there a lot of people from your Wudong sect going?" Li Changsheng was surprised. "Yes, the sect leader said that many sects will appear in this exploration of the ruins. All the Wudong disciples want to try their luck." "Okay." Li Changsheng didn't say anything. At that time, when Song Zhen told him about the ruins, he spoke very seriously, which made Li Changsheng feel very grateful to him. Not only did Song Zhen repair the array for him, but Song Zhen also explained martial arts to him. Now, it seemed that he had fallen into Song Zhen's trap. The news of the Jinwu ruins had already spread. Even if Song Zhen didn't tell Li Changsheng could have found out from other channels. When he arrived at the Wudong sect's main hall, he saw many disciples ready to go. Song Zilin and Bai Ying's brother were among the crowd. When sect leader Song Zhen saw Li Changsheng come out, he immediately went up to greet him. "Mr. Li, sect leader Song is so calculative," Li Changsheng said snappily. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Song Zhen's face suddenly turned red. "Okay, let's go." Li Changsheng turned and walked out of the main hall. The Wudong disciples followed behind him. The Jinwu mysterious territory was 500 miles away from the Wudong sect. Even the Wudong sect could only calculate the approximate opening date. Therefore, they could only set off in advance. The ruins were deep in the mountains. There was a green water flowing slowly around it. The scenery was quite good. It was pleasing to the eyes along the way. When the Wudong sect people approached, a martial arts family came up to them. "Sect leader Song Zhen, you're here? The Jinwu ruins were originally discovered by your Wudong sect. As the host, you're a little late." The old man was wearing a gray robe, and his face was full of wrinkles. He looked like an old farmer. In fact, his family was indeed related to farmers. They were the descendants of farmers from the 100 schools of thought. Although the 100 schools of thought had declined, their lineage had preserved their inheritance. Tong Yuxing had just broken through to the finger-profound realm and was in high spirits. "Brother Tong, long time no see. Your cultivation has improved again. Congratulations." Song Zhen's eyes also showed some surprise. He thought that his breakthrough to the finger-profound realm was already amazing. He didn't expect this old man to also have a breakthrough. "This is..." Tong Yuxing looked at Li Changsheng, who was standing beside Song Zhen, with a puzzled expression. Li Changsheng was young, but could be on par with Song Zhen. This made him very surprised. Moreover, this Tong Yuxing was different from others. The Tong family's inheritors were all ugly, so he wouldn't look down on people with ordinary looks at all. "This is Li Changsheng, Mr. Li," Song Zhen introduced. The other party was stunned and revealed a respectful expression. He cupped his hands and said, "Tong Yuxing, the successor of the Tong family, greets Mr. Li. Mr. Li is famous in the cultivation world. I've long admired you." "Don't be so polite, Patriarch Tong. The Tong family has inherited the 100 schools of thought of the Pre-Qin dynasty. I'm also fascinated, seeing that Patriarch Tong has already reached the finger-profound realm. You're really an outstanding talent of the current era." Tong Yuxing had just broken through to the finger-profound realm and was feeling proud. Receiving Li Changsheng's praise, he was even happier. He knew Li Changsheng's status in the cultivation world, so he was even more friendly to Li Changsheng. "Both of you, many forces have come for the opening of the relic this time. They're all waiting in front." The Wu-Tang sect was the first to discover the Jinwu relic, so the specific matters of exploring the relic still need to be decided by sect leader Song Zhen. After Tong Yuxing finished speaking, He led Li Changsheng and the others forward. On the riverbank, they saw many people gathered in one place. The Wu-Tang sect's people are here. It was unknown who shouted this. The clamor by the riverside came to an abrupt end as countless gazes turned to look at them. Greetings, sect leader Song Jun. Greetings, sect leader Song Jun. Many people greeted Song Jun. Among them, there were a few whose status was not lower than Song Jun's, so Song Jun took the initiative to walk over. Li Changsheng was obviously not interested in this kind of social politeness. Sitting in the Wu-Tang sect's camp, Bai Ying took the opportunity to ask Li Changsheng about some questions about cultivation. Li Changsheng helped her explain, and the Wu-Tang sect's disciples next to her also pricked up their ears. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.